Hey guys, it's Christina. This is Vox and Guest, and I am so excited because I have sitting with me Keith from Knightfall. Keith, say hello to everybody.
What's up, everybody? I hope you all are having a great week.
They are. It's even better now because they've got you, and they're going to be listening to us talk for the next 60 or 70 hours like we usually do on this show. So, of course, they're having a great week. Okay. We have so much to talk about, but I think you may or may not know that as a serious and prominent now journalist, I feel it is my duty to begin every episode with a really meaningful question. Okay. And is this
Sure.
maybe difficult for you, but trust me and we'll get through it. Okay. Are you feeling comfortable? Are you ready to tackle it?
Sure. Let's do it.
Okay. If for the rest of your life, you either had to shave your head or get a mullet, which would you choose and why?
Well, I've already had to shave my head in the past, and I could pull it off. So I would probably do the shave head versus the mullet. The mullet is definitely a lifestyle choice that is probably best kept in the 1980s.
If there. If there. As someone who is follicularly blessed as you are with the fabulous hair, I had to ask you that question. And I said to myself, there's almost no way that he's going to choose the mullet, except that you are such a devotee of some of the elements of the 80s that I thought maybe thematically you might go with the mullet, but I could see you rocking the shaved head. I could totally with the goat and everything. I think you probably look pretty badass.
Yeah, I've had to do it before. I've got psoriasis, and when it was when
Oh,
we weren't treating it, like, again, trying to find the right treatment for stuff like that is always
so
painstaking.
hard. Yeah.
So we finally found the right treatment, but during the time when we were like testing pills and other injectables and stuff like that, and things weren't working, the only way to treat it was topical, and I had to shave everything
Wow.
in order to treat it so that it wouldn't, be so bad. Because it was everywhere. Like if once I shaved my head, it looked like I had a tattoo on my head.
Okay.
That's how
And
bad it was.
you could have been Post Malone and you didn't even know it. You see,
Right.
you could have just done it. But,
Right.
okay, so
So,
you've experienced it firsthand. You know
yep.
that you can rock it. So there wasn't even a question for you.
No, but yeah,
Wasn't
but
even.
once the treatment started, hey, my hair came back, and it came back nicely because it was beginning to thin out really, really, really bad and fall out.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. See, look, your hair came back with a vengeance.
Yes, it did.
Man,
I'm
fabulous.
happy about that.
Yeah. I am too. It's part of the whole aesthetic. I have to tell you, you gotta prepare for me for tonight because I am gonna geek out on you and your music pretty hard. I am a diehard 80s music fan of and everything that means. And I have been waiting to interview you because while your music is very definitely modern, it has so much 80s influence that it makes me like want to pee. I love it so much. And so I really wanted to have this conversation with you because I want to talk to you about like all of that and where all that came from. But let's start way back. Talk to me about Keith and how Keith became a musician in the first place.
So back when I was young, so it started when I was probably about 5 or 6.
Okay.
My mother had me do boys choir.
Okay.
So like legit, like we're a Catholic family originally.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, my mom would have me do all of, those little workshops and like
Okay.
stuff at the church and stuff like that. So I was
Okay.
constantly doing those things. And then when I turned 7, she wanted me to take violin. So she enrolled me in the Thayer Conservatory in Lancaster, Massachusetts.
Okay. I feel like I've
And
heard of that.
yeah, it's an old school building, like old school building, like around during, probably like the Civil War
Holy
age.
shit. Okay.
So
Okay.
it's an old building. So I went there and started the Suzuki method.
Okay.
So that was what we did.
Very popular
And
car. Yeah. No,
right,
I'm
and I
kidding.
could not read music. I had no theory whatsoever. So
Okay.
my teacher quickly discovered that I could mimic pretty much everything that she did. So that's how
Okay.
she taught me initially.
Cool
Was she would,
teacher.
yeah.
Okay.
So she would play it and then have me mimic it, and then during our lessons, that's what we would do. Eventually, I figured out how to read a little bit,
Okay.
which eventually left my head later in life. But
Yeah.
I made it to book 3.
Okay.
And I was in a children's symphony orchestra at the time, but the problem that arisen was whenever I would play, I would grind my teeth. The sound of the bow on the strings would make me
Oh,
grind.
yeah.
It was like
I
a
could
chalkboard
totally.
effect.
Yeah. 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 I could totally understand that. Okay.
So I
That's like a
couldn't
sensory nightmare. Yeah.
physically do it with that sensory issue, so I quit, which made both my mother and my teacher cry because they considered me a prodigy.
Yeah.
And then my mother had my grandfather's acoustic piano, the acoustic brand piano, upright piano. Hadn't been tuned in years, and I sat in front of it and just started hitting keys. Like
Okay.
just like this with 2 fingers. I would do this. I didn't even know how to play chopsticks. I was just literally hitting the notes and figuring out in my brain how they correlated with each other. And
And you were
after
like what, 8-ish, 9-ish by this point, maybe?
I would say it was probably, well, let's see. I did basically 3 years. So I was 10
Okay,
when
so
I quit
10. Okay.
violin. So I
Okay.
probably started picking up the piano right around 11
Okay.
because
Okay.
I
And
still
a
felt like I
veteran
need
at this point of of
right.
all sorts of things. Yeah.
Yeah, and I felt like I needed to keep doing something music. So I
Mm,
figured the piano was there. It was accessible to me, and
yeah.
I just started playing. And then I started teaching myself. I started writing music. First song I ever wrote was a song called "I'm a Cowboy."
Okay.
This was at 11 years old. That song will never be available for anyone
Okay.
ever,
I was gonna ask.
because it was silly. But that was literally the first song that I ever wrote.
Hey, you got to start somewhere.
And yeah, so I just kept playing and kept playing, kept practicing and kept practicing and kept practicing. And it was like I'd come home from school and I would probably practice until dinner time. And then even after I
Wow.
ate dinner, I'd practice even more after that and then go
Okay.
to bed. It was my life. That's all I did.
Yeah.
So, and then that kept on through teenage years. I ended up doing musical theater, throughout high school and stuff like that. So I did even more singing and dancing. And the auditorium at my high school had, a piano that was accessible for anyone that wanted, and had recording
Awesome.
software there too. So I would start
Wow.
putting my ideas into that computer. And luckily, my teacher, Mr. Michael Keating, allowed me some freedom to do stuff like that, where
Cool.
he didn't really allow many of his other students to do stuff like that. So he allowed me to, and that's where I started, writing some of the first songs that I ever wrote that were like legit songs.
Yeah.
One of which a couple of years ago was recorded by an old teacher of mine, a voice teacher from college,
Oh, no kidding.
as a pop version. He did a pop cover of that song.
Okay.
So
Wow. So okay, so I'm hearing a couple things there up to this point in your musical journey. That was mom a musician? Did mom want to be a musician and wasn't a musician? Was mom just thinking kids should learn musical instruments? What was the big push for all I mean, I'm glad she did it,
right.
obviously, but like not all parents have that as a priority, unfortunately. So
Right. So mom's dad was just like me. Could pick up instruments and just learn how to play them. Like
okay.
he taught himself violin, piano, accordion, certain
Huh.
percussion instruments. Like he was
Okay.
just, he learned by ear. And my
Hmm.
mother was convinced that I was him reincarnated.
Okay.
Convinced,
That
absolutely.
must have freaked her out then when you started playing his piano.
Yeah, yeah. But she recognized it pretty quickly because she had had a
Hmm.
dream the night that I was born, and her dad came to her, had been coming to her after he passed away and stuff like that. And he told her that night was going to be the last night that he was going to come to her, and he never came in another dream since then. So she put 2 and 2 together when she
And it
saw
was
so many
you.
similarities,
Look at this.
and believes
Woo.
wholeheartedly that I am him come again.
Wow. Okay. I want to ask you what you think about that, and I also don't. So it's kind of up to you whether you want to answer that or not.
No, I mean, listen, I do believe in a lot of different supernatural things because I've experienced some things that are just too much to be coincidence.
Okay.
And we won't go into real detail about that, but there's definitely been some points in my life and some things that have happened that have made me go, whoa, like that there's something to all of this.
Okay.
So I roll with it. I roll with it.
Okay.
I think that it is highly possible. And the fact that I've been able to teach myself multiple instruments over the years, just like he did. He also did guitar and stuff like that too. And he and my grandmother made all of their children learn music back then. So like my mother knew how to play the piano, but she didn't anymore. So she wanted me to have that gift, basically.
And she didn't have that kind of prodigious just sit down and pick it up kind of thing, I guess.
She had to work at it. She didn't have it natural ability. She had to work at it. She could read music, and that's how she would, learn to play things.
Okay.
But there was no emotional connection to the music where I had the emotional connection, which was the difference.
That's everything, right? Like that's the whole thing. If you've got that, it's even if it never does anything else, you've got to do it, right? You've got to make the music because you're tethered to it. So that's yeah.
I was gonna say emotional always sinks in better and is more relatable than technical expertise.
That's exactly right. And it's a conversation we've had in many different forms on this show that, people would rather listen to a band that fucked up sometimes but was really passionate and in it rather than a band that is like machine-like precision but zero soul,
Right.
So
exactly.
And I will take that any day of the week. So but the thing is with you, we don't have to choose because you have both. And I got to tell you, I mean, I dug in on your catalog because I listen to everything that I can that's available and everything, and it's about to get much bigger, which we'll get into a little bit later, your catalog, but I want to make sure that before we go really any further, because first of all in the chat they're always like song, we want to hear the song, but I want, before we get into much more of the discussion, for anybody who hasn't already heard Knightfall, I want them to hear what you do, because it's going to make everything that we say after that make a lot more sense. Yep. And it'll make my fangirling even more understandable, I think, for people. But so we are going to play the newest track, Starfall, with the super cool video. So why don't you just say a little something about it before we play it, and then we'll come back and we'll talk more about it.
So the concept of Starfall happened in 2020. And the premise of the emotionality behind the music was, everything was going sideways. We had COVID. We were, potentially going to war with, North Korea. Like there was all this stuff that was looming.
Yeah.
So I thought to myself, I mean, man, what would happen if somebody decided to push the button and everything were to get launched? And then I took it one step further. So the lyrics definitely embody that. But then the video, I'm like, we're so plugged into everything. Let's use the idea of a virtual MMO, people literally playing a virtual MMO, like, virtual reality gear, the whole nine, like the future of gaming, doing this fantasy video game and then basically coming out of it into the apocalypse. And that was the whole premise.
Just a little whatever. Didn't really think about it very hard or anything. So guys, you're about to listen to something epic. You're going to watch something epic, and it's going to be gaming and music and apocalypse and like all the delicious things. So I can't say it any better than Keith did. Let's just let you enjoy this. Seriously, put your knees up, sit back, relax, and enjoy Starfall by Knightfall. Okay. Now we have to sink into it because I have to tell you, when I was listening to everything, I played it for Greg and I know you're going to love this. So you got to listen to it anyway. But, we're sitting there and we're rocking out and everything. And I said, Keith's music makes me want to go do shit. Like, it makes me want to climb a mountain or fight a bear or learn Java or so. I don't know. Like, it makes me want to go out and do shit, which is not generally a high priority of mine. I prefer to stay home and not do things if I can help it. But it's just so epic and cinematic, and it's oh my God. There's so much to say about it, but I will focus, I promise. But this song, it's so kick ass. The video is so kick ass. When I started putting together the gaming element of the video concept, and I was like, oh, because it needed to be better, right? So we've got gaming going on now too. And it's such a cool concept and everything. So we'll go into all of that, but I think we need to frame up for people how your band works, because it is a little unusual in the structuring, right? Yep. So you guys may have noticed that Keith was not singing that one, nor was he acting, for the most part in, the main role in the video or anything. So this is a very cool concept and it is working really well for you. I don't know that it would work so well for everybody, but why don't you explain to everyone about this collaborative roulette kind of setup that you've got for Knightfall? Yeah. And because I actually think it's brilliant. And the people that you have found are so gifted, as are you. So it works really well. But explain, Lucy, explain to everybody what you're doing with Knightfall, because it's cool.
So it is, as of this moment, a studio project. So the idea that I had behind it is, I've been out of the music world for an extremely long time.
Oh yeah.
I wanted to come back and turn all of these ideas that I had into something. Right. I wanted to create an album. I wanted to be a recording artist, something that a dream that I had given up, when I decided to have a family.
Right. Because you were out for about a decade, right? More even?
Yeah. So, the last actual show where I played an instrument live was probably 2009 at that point. Right. Maybe 2010. I can't remember exactly, but it had been about, I don't know, over a decade since I had recorded new music.
And we should also just add in for everybody that you were involved with Anaria, he involved writing all the demos and everything with Jessica and Todd, and then it was what Events Ethos before that, right? That was so right. This you were steeped in this kind of symphonic power metal 80s, I can't even describe it adequately, but for a long time, and had all these ideas, and then just said, you know what, I'm going to focus on having a family. And so, as we know, that will take a decade out of your life right away from whatever it is that you want to do. So you guys should be aware of this. And by the way, we'll get into this later on too, but you can find not the Anaria stuff with Keith, as far as I could tell, because it didn't seem to go back past 2014 or 2015, but the Events Ethos stuff is online.
So if you actually go to the 2014 Ancestors release, the demos are there.
Oh, see, I missed that. Damn it. Okay.
The demos are there. Yep. So
I'm gonna have to go back and listen to all that now too.
That's why they had released, and it was under a different name. They had released the tracks in 2014, and then it was taken down because we didn't have agreements, all that stuff put into place. And at the time, none of us were really talking to each other. We had all gone our separate ways. Todd was doing his thing. Jessica was still with Anaria doing her thing. I was out of the picture completely, and there was just no open
no communication
between us to get an agreement where we could, have all that stuff online and everybody get their their slice of the pie, so to speak.
Frustrating. Yeah.
So when I started coming back into, it all plays into this, because Jessica, who's in the Starfall video, who sings
Yep.
Starfall,
Yep.
you know, is the singer from Evans Ethos. You know,
Yep.
she and I have been friends for a long time.
Oh,
But
yeah.
we had just lost touch because I'd moved away. I
Right.
had kids, you know, and I wasn't in the scene whatsoever. I was still supporting Anaria from afar, liking their stuff, you know, listening to their music, buying their
Cool.
stuff.
Yeah.
You know, because always a fan of what she does, and you know, the band
Supremely
itself.
talented. Yeah.
Supremely talented. I always believed in her, like when I found her, because I found her through I want to say Band Mix was what it was.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Usually it's like Earl with one tooth that knows how to play the comb or something, but not well. And you found Jessica. So
I found
okay,
Jessica.
you are gaming Band Mix like a master at that point, if that's who you found.
Right,
Holy
because the
shit.
singer that we had prior to her was having issues, and you know, we decided that working with her was not a good idea anymore.
Okay.
So we were having an open
I like
audition.
all the subtext of that. Okay.
Right. So we were having an open audition, and, you know, a couple people signed up for it, you know, but I was looking for people to invite to the audition, and I found her, and I invited her to the audition, and just like I knew it from the moment I heard her,
Yeah.
she ended up, you know, all the guys were like, yes, she's the one. And I was like, told you. I told you. So I've always been a fan of what Jess does. Even from the beginning. So when I started doing this, we started talking again, like right around the time I released Waiting for You, maybe a little bit before that.
So year and change ago.
Right.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit longer. So, but we started talking again, and I told her what my plan was, and she was just the same old kind Jess that she always was. And she was like, hey, you know, if you need me for anything to help you get kickstarted,
very cool,
you know, let me know. So I shared my demo folder with her, and I wrote Starfall back in 2020, and that was back when I was still in the Anaria Evans Ethos mindset.
Yeah.
So when I wrote Starfall, it was completely with her in mind. Now, I didn't tell her this.
Yeah.
I didn't tell her this at all. When she went through my demo folder, she picked that song out on her own and said that's the one that she wanted to do. And then she said, you know, I actually wanted to do more than one, but, you know, you said pick one. And I was like, if you want to do more than one,
I'm not going to say no.
I'm not going to say no. So she did choose another one, and it was a song called Farewell, which will probably be our next single.
Okay, very cool.
We'll get into that in a little bit, but she decided to do that one as well, which I've heard the mix so far that we've got on it, and it makes me cry every single time I listen to it because of the subject matter. It's my farewell to my mother.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow.
My mother passed away in 2017, and I wrote this song about dealing with the grief of losing her. And so the song is literally the stages of grief, the 5 stages of grief in music form.
Okay. Oh, so it's a farewell to your mom. Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
Farewell to mom.
That and her voice and your music, I can't even, that's going to end up making me cry too, damn it. Like I'm already almost crying and I haven't even heard it yet, but okay. All right.
It's epic. And there's a lot of people that have their hand in this one. This is a big collective. So again, getting back to the initial question.
Yeah. Look at that. We remembered what it was.
Yeah.
The whole collaborative thing.
This whole collaborative thing. So it started, you know, I was talking to Jess, but she hadn't really committed to anything yet. I was looking to get Waiting for You. Waiting for You just happened by accident. It was a very 80s nostalgia riff that I came up with.
Fantastic.
And my buddy Patrick, so Patrick is the guitarist on a good chunk of the songs. There is another guitarist that will be featured on the album as well. Actually, 2 other guitarists.
Right. You got Sergio and George, I think?
George, yep.
George, okay. Because I know Sergio directed the Starfall video, or was it okay? Yeah,
he is also now. We've entered into a contract. He is now going to be doing the rest of the album for mixing and mastering.
He's and we're going to talk about that too. But holy fuck, the production on your stuff is like gorgeous and pristine. So it's like this. See what I mean, though? Like this is a nesting doll of compliments that I have to get out of my brain. So I'm going to shut up and let you finish. So you and Patrick met in a very cool way, though. Actually,
so he is married to my wife's best friend. Okay. So that's how I was introduced to him. And he ran classes at the Guitar Academy for guitar, production, drum. He's a multi-instrumentalist, very talented
Mm-hmm.
guy.
Mm-hmm.
He back in 2011, he ended up on Jay Leno, and doing something called the four-handed guitar with his buddy,
Oh, wow.
where he did a cover of Lady Gaga's Bad Romance, and he was a viral artist on YouTube back then. So stuff happened. He no longer had an account on YouTube. His original account got deleted and all that stuff. So
Oh,
he had to start back over. But he is such a massive talent who is an orchestrator as well.
Oh, yeah.
So I started coming to him to relearn how to do production. So, how to record, which programs to use, which sound libraries. We started, going through all of that, and he taught me.
Well, and in the decade you were away, so much changed. Like it's like a whole new world. So that's a great person to know.
Right. So he started teaching me the production side of it. So I'd bring my laptop to the Guitar Academy. We would go over mixes that I would make. He would help me fine tune, just so I could get demos together, and whatnot. And, I started coming to him each week with a different demo of a song and stuff like that. And it got to the point where he was like, okay, this is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So
no shit.
if you need any help with this, and so again,
please let me. Please let me help.
Don't twist my arm or anything.
Yeah, exactly.
He was like,
would you like me to please? I'm in your band now.
Right. And that's kind of what happened. He was the staple guitarist, and he helps me with, the ideas for the drum aspects, to make it more human. Because I can sit here and play drums on my keyboard all day.
Right.
And it's probably not going to. So I've learned a lot, even just rehearsing with him where that stuff is concerned. Now I've written, he wrote the drums to the Musketeer, but I've written most of the drums since then.
Okay.
So, I've learned my ability just by working with him has gone exponential to where it was, prior to starting. Absolutely. So during all of this, I knew I needed to find a singer. And, I needed somebody that was going to rock the socks off of everybody. And
guys, this is so cool. You need to pay attention right now because this was a masterstroke. And when you hear I'll let him do, but listen, pay attention. Okay, go ahead, Key. Because I know they're in the chat listen, okay, go ahead.
Right. So I enlisted the help of a very cool website / app called Fiverr. Fiverr has musicians from all over the world. And this actually kind of really sparked the idea of being able to work in a collaborative way remotely with people from all around the globe.
Yep.
So after painstakingly listening to probably 300 plus different vocalists on that app,
I'm actually kind of glad you weren't D was the third person I heard because I would have been like, fuck, you should play the lottery. Okay, so you had to comb through.
Right. I combed through and listen, there are some people who are in the beginning stages there.
Sure.
Let's be kind.
We all start somewhere, yeah.
Yep. So there are and there are some vocal styles that just don't fit what I'm doing. You've got that airy Lorena McKinnett, style. You've got the
right, or like Macy Gray or something. It's not going to work. Yeah.
Alanis Morissette. That there's just these vocalists that don't fit the style that I was going for.
That's right. Great people, just not the right timbre, not the right feel.
Right. Especially with that first song being 80s, I needed somebody that could capture, the Pat Benatars of the world, the Vixens of the world, Rita Ford, the
Taylor Dane, Bonnie Tyler, all that whole, the big hair, big voice,
Bonnie Tyler, that's a great one. That is an absolute great one because I absolutely adore her and Meatloaf. But
that does not surprise me even a little bit. But okay.
Listen, Jim Steinman. Part of it is Jim Steinman. Jim Steinman's music is a huge influence on me. Mm-hmm. And actually, one of the songs that we have coming up is got a little bit of a tribute to him because I wrote it when he passed away.
Oh, okay.
Well, you know how Holding Out for a lot of his music has those big percussion drums.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
A lot of the songs that I do has big percussion in them, and that is completely on purpose because he is a major influence on me.
Yeah.
So there's a song called "The Hero Walks Alone," which has that holding out for a hero drums in there
Okay.
in a few places, and
Super
that is a
bombastic. Yeah. Yeah.
direct
Okay.
tribute to Steinman.
Okay.
So I needed somebody that was going to be, that was this vocal
You
powerhouse.
needed someone with massive chops,
Right,
like a Shannon
right,
Darcy, or yeah, you needed a
right.
voice.
A
So,
voice, and there were,
uh-huh.
and I had narrowed it down to about 10, and some of them were
Wow.
extremely expensive.
Okay.
Like we're talking like $1,000 for like 3 minutes, like
Holy shit. Okay.
yep. Well, professionals,
Yeah, yeah.
like big professionals that did. Like I had this one girl that could do a whole bunch of stuff, but she was like a thousand, like, it'll be over $1,000 to get her. Her name was Amanda Power. I'll never forget the name.
Okay.
She was really, really good, and she sounded a little bit more nasally, let's just say.
Okay.
It could have worked. It could have worked, but then
Very
D,
different timbre from what you chose, though. Not
right. So
nasally at all. Yeah.
yeah, no. So when I heard D,
Oh
she was
yeah.
one of the last ones that I grabbed. Like I had listened to so many, and I grabbed her and I listened, and she could get these low, like
Yes.
raspy tones that
Yeah.
normal women just can't hit. And I was like, okay. So and I always look for the unicorn, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of my thing. Like Jess,
Yeah.
Jess was always a unicorn for me. That's the reason why I invited her to the audition in the
Well, 'cause
first place.
she has like doesn't she have like a theater
Yeah, she can
background?
do it. She is a very versatile with her vocals,
Yeah,
and
yeah. So
you know,
that is kind of a unicorn though, because sometimes that kind of a voice is so theatrical
yep,
that it cannot read anywhere but in theater. And
right,
like you don't want to hear someone, going like, we can afford to be innocent. Like you don't want that. Like you need somebody who, and so she, with Jess, it's definitely like, now I know her, Jess, it's like, whatever, we're buds, we're going to hang. So Jess, call me. No, but like, with her, it's like that you have that, she can go all over and it sounds
right,
authentic and legit. But so with D, the fact that you mentioned that real, her low register is bonkers. She almost sounds androgynous,
right.
when she does that, which is
I've had people
cool.
mistake her for a guy.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
Well,
that's
until she ends up in the rafters,
right.
and then it's kind of hard to
Then
mistake her for, yeah.
then it changes. But initially, like there was a couple people asking me, "Is that a dude?" And I was like, "No, that's a girl."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Are
Yeah.
you serious?" And I was like, and even Patrick was like, "Are you shitting me?" I was like, "How the heck?" She was like, "How the fuck did you find this person?"
Yeah.
And I told him, I was like, "This is what I did," and I just listened. And he's like, "You just have this knack for finding people."
I know,
So
between
that's
Bandmix and now Fiverr, and you find Jessica and D. So
oh, and
guys, this is
it
D
gets better.
Wolf. This is D Wolf.
D
Okay,
Wolf.
so Keith
He did
very wisely honed in on D,
Yep.
and
And she did the first three.
Mhm.
So waiting for you, she took on the project because and funnily enough, she took on the project because it was going to get her outside of her comfort zone
Okay.
because she's not used to
She's
getting
from Italy, right?
Italy,
Yeah.
correct.
Okay.
So she's not. I mean, she told me later that the reason why she took it on in the first place was because this was going to get her in her higher register, which she doesn't sing as much in,
Okay.
right? So, but she's got that low. She's got that low grit, that just that raspy tone.
Yeah.
It's just an amazing tone. She sounds amazing with everything that she
Yeah.
sings.
Yeah.
If you've ever, she has a version of "Creep."
Oh, I got to hear
On
that.
Oh,
Okay.
go look it up. Go look up
Okay.
"Creep." Her version of "Creep" is what sold me.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
what
Yeah.
sold.
Given what I know from the three of her that I've heard,
Right.
I can completely hear that, and B, I have to, because that's got to be very cool, especially once
Yep.
she ends up at the end there. So okay, so you
So
found D,
I found
and
D.
yeah.
She agreed to do "Waiting for You," and then we talked about doing "The Musketeer" because I didn't really have anybody else at that point in time. And
Mhm.
I was like, you know what? This is a really cool song. It's still got an 80s vibe to it, but we're getting now moving more towards the symphonic power metal.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The stuff that I really wanted to delve back into. And I created this line for her. And the first take that she did, she did try to change not singing that fast. Like he tried
Is
to
is
change
this
it up.
the we always stick together, we are always in forever, one for all? Is
Yes.
yeah, and guys, seriously, like so we're gonna because there aren't too many that are out so far. You and I are gonna go song by song, so I don't want to get too deep into any one of them right now. But I put on this song, The Musketeer, okay, and there is this riff, and it's very fast, and it's very distinctive, and it's a through line for the whole song. And I'm listening to it, and I'm like, that's cool, okay. And then Dee starts singing, and I'm like, okay, very cool. You know, it's a cool idea. We'll get into all of it. And then Keith has Dee singing along with this riff. And it is not something, as a singer, I'm sitting there at, and you know, I had to pause it and go like, we always look together, like, can I do it? You know, and it, holy fuck. First of all, it's a tongue twister, right?
Yep.
And secondly, it's so fucking cool because it just, everything you make sounds like it should be in a movie to me. Everything, like, you know, whether it's literally a movie about like the Three Musketeers or whatever, if it's some, you know, I said to Greg at one point, like Keith's music, and I mean this as the highest compliment because I am, as I said, an 80s dork. It's like the moment in every 80s movie when they have the montage, you know, and like you're watching Rocky, you know, punch meat because there's a Russian that he has to fuck up later, or like you're watching Daniel-san, like, you know, like training with Mr. Miyagi because he has to like save Japan with his karate or whatever, like whatever the fuck. But like it's always those moments in the movies where you're like, yes, fuck it up, and like that is what your stuff reminds me. It's, again, it makes me want to do shit, and it feels like a montage. And like I think anything that can pull that off and not be the slightest bit cheesy, which is the magic here, because
Yep.
it could get to a cheese and it never, ever, ever does. And I think that's largely down to talent, because between you and Jessica and Patrick and Dee and like Pete and all the other people, like you have a whole roster that we can go through. Like you have to be able to pull that off and have it sound legit and professional and serious.
Yep.
But it's so much fucking fun because you have grabbed that whole feeling of that symphonic 80s power metal fusion kind of whatever thing. You've grabbed it right by the balls and you have it, and it's perfect. Like it's and then you put this production on top of it, which is just, it's so smooth, you know, and everything's in its place. So I mean, like the fact that you you handed her this line and said, okay, sing this, and she's like, but can I sing it this way? So what was she trying to do with that line? She was just trying to maybe sing at halftime or something? Like what was the
No, so she would sing it, but then she would like break for a second and then finish it. So
okay.
And she kind of does. I let one of them stay in, and if you listen to the very end, I left
There's
one
a
of
little
them
breath. Okay.
where it was sung slightly different.
Okay.
Right at the end of The Musketeer, but I was like, no, I need it to be this way, and you know, Jess will tell you the same thing. Any musician that has ever worked with me, I do not let anybody half-ass anything. I don't.
Want the whole ass. I appreciate
that. I'm tough.
Yeah,
I am tough, but
you know what you want it to sound like.
Right. I am tough, so when I give notes, it may seem like I'm coming off like an asshole. Okay. But it's not meant to be that way. It's meant to pull out the absolute best performance that we can put together. So I'm not just, I'm also a producer at heart too. And that's what I try to do, is I want to make sure that we are absolutely killing it and not just, you know, going, okay, good job. You know what I mean?
You can't, you couldn't do that with the kind of music that you make either, because any one part that doesn't work would let the whole thing down, if that makes sense. So I hear you, but yeah, it can be tricky if you, I mean, you know, if you're not intending to be an asshole about it, then it kind of comes down to how people, you're like, no, but you're not intending to be an asshole. As you said, it's like, because you know that they can do it. You probably wouldn't be working with them otherwise. Yeah.
I tell them, I was like, look, when we start talking about the songs, Keith's going to go into business mode. It's going to be a completely different Keith. than you're
Okay.
used to, because again, I know what I want. I know what I hear. I'm going to give you notes. You
Mm-hmm.
know, if it's not right, I'm going to tell you to redo it. If something doesn't gel with my ear, I'm going to say this doesn't gel.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's figure it out. You know, so but Jess will tell you that I do the same thing. I've always written very difficult lines for her, and it
Mm.
gets her outside of her comfort zone. But you know
Yeah.
what? It always makes everybody better when you're outside of your comfort zone. If you stay inside the comfort zone, you're not learning anything.
Right.
Hans
Right.
Zimmer, look at Hans Zimmer. Hans Zimmer comes up with new instruments for a lot of his scores. And he asks these players to come up with these impossible tasks, and somehow they end up pulling it off. If you
Mm-hmm.
watch any of the behind the scenes of the stuff that he's done, go watch it.
Okay.
He's had flute players create a new type of flute, okay, to
Because he
play.
knows what he wants it to sound like, and the thing that would make that sound happen doesn't exist yet.
Yeah, so he makes it exist.
Okay.
Like that's the level that he takes it to, right?
Okay.
So I kind of model myself after that, because he's one of my major influences as a composer.
Okay.
And you know, he always gets the best results. He's like, the music he creates is just so much fun. You know, everything from stuff that he's done in like The Gladiator to the
Yeah.
theme song to Days of Thunder. I bet
Yeah.
people don't even realize that he wrote that song with Billy Idol.
With Billy Idol.
Yeah, that song
That I
was
did. The
written.
Billy Idol part I did not know. Okay.
Hans Zimmer, written with Billy Idol, sung by David Coverdale, The Last Note of Freedom.
Holy shit. Okay.
Yeah.
There's a little music
So
trivia for you folks.
there's some music history and trivia for you right there. But I look at what he's been able to do with orchestration and rock music, because he incorporates a lot of rock music into his orchestrations, or stuff that could be rock music.
Mhm.
So he is the perfect composer to look up to if you're trying to do this style of music.
Sure.
And even like my biggest influence, which is Nightwish, you know, Tuomas of Nightwish, the keyboard player, his favorite composer is Hans Zimmer as well.
Okay. There you go.
So
All comes together.
there's something to it. But yeah, so D, you know, we got D from Fiverr, and I just knew that this was going to be a thing. And, you know, Waiting for You, like, everybody received that song really, really well.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I have a video for it, but like, even on like Spotify, 30,000 plus views
Yeah.
over the last,
Yeah.
you know, year and a half or so, from a band that had absolutely no followers.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll take it. And then, you know, people that didn't necessarily like Starfall went and go listen to Waiting for You, and are like, ooh, I like that one though. You know, so the cool thing about Knightfall is every song may not be for everybody, but I
Right.
bet you on the album, somebody can find at least one song on there that they're like, ooh, I like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is part of the idea, and why we're doing the collaborations the way we're doing, is because songs are different. There's certain elements that are going to be the same, but the overall themes of the songs are all a little bit different, with different vocalists, you know. So, and then Dee did Invincible for me, and I knew because of what she did with Waiting for You that she was the right person to sing Invincible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
when she gave me the first take on Invincible, she was not feeling well. So when it came back to me, I'm sitting here going, I'm like, there's no emotion. There's no grit.
Yeah. What happened?
She was taking care of her voice. She was not trying to push herself.
Yeah.
So I literally, because we could have released Invincible in October instead of February.
Okay.
So I told her, I was like, you rest up.
Yeah.
Because I know what you can do in this song.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to give you time to rest up. When you're feeling better, let's tackle this again and nail it.
Yeah.
So we waited, and she gave me the take that is now in the version of Invincible, which was exactly what I was looking for.
No, I mean, it really, you know, because I'm sitting there and as I prep, I'm obviously gathering information on who's in the band, what do they do, and I'm like, you know, okay, well, I know Keith, like I know of Keith. We have interacted a little bit before this, but not too much. And I was like, all right, so I know it's Keith, but then it's like, all right, well, you know, there are these women singing, they're not the same women, you know, and then when I really started to understand this structure that you have, that, and I mean, you have a huge, I mean, not huge, but it's like a good 8-9 people that you're working with in different, you know, at least that I know of, right? So, I mean, we look at that and go, okay, so you have a certain level of ability that you require, right? That the music demands if it's going to sound like what you want it to sound like. and you are finding people who, because I mean, you could do everything with D,
Sure.
but you're not. And I think that's cool. And I think, and I'm because like, so you, if I understood this correctly, you're going to have someone growling on one of these. Is that Marcos who's going to be growling?
A couple. Yep,
Okay, you have a
Marcos.
couple growly people. Okay, so I
Well,
mean, like
a couple of songs that will have growls in them.
okay, okay. So I mean, that's a different element, right? That's not
Right.
something that I've heard so far. So one of the things I thought was really cool about what you're doing is not only the fact that you're collaborating with all these people, but if you go to the Knightfall website and you look at the about info, yeah, there's you, there's Patrick, it goes into Jessica and Dee, but you have highlighted everyone. And it's done in a very generous way. It's not like, oh yeah, and then these people happen to also be like, it's my project. But you make that face, but there are people who would do that. It's like, well, it's my band and they're just kind of guest starring or whatever.
Well,
but like, it doesn't seem like you have that. You're not renting these people. It seems like you
no.
have relationships with these people or you develop
Right.
them. So how does that, I mean, how did you find it, was everybody on Fiverr besides,
No.
okay.
No.
So how did you find everybody else?
So when I started the project, when I released The Musketeer, I joined a power symphonic group on Facebook
Okay.
with Martin, John Price and Martin White, I believe, are the moderators.
Okay.
Both big fans of the genre, right? But in that group, there's a ton of budding artists in there as well.
Okay.
So when I posted my stuff, I got some really cool comments and support from Charlene Emerlut and Gideon Emerlut. They are absolutely just fantastic human beings. They do a project called Woods of Wonders,
Okay.
which is very different. It's a full theatrical production, but symphonic power metal. They have people like during the songs, there's like actual spoken words, the entire story.
Oh, okay. So
you have to listen to
like
it from
a
start to
metal
finish.
version of a rock opera kind of thing.
It's exactly that. It is a metal opera, straight up a metal opera.
Awesome.
And a couple of the vocalists, like they had like Alina Lesnick, which is a big YouTuber out in the world and stuff like that. So they had some like pretty big names, people that I didn't recognize, but like everybody that was on that album was absolutely just fantastic. So I started developing a relationship with Gideon and Charlene.
Okay.
And both of them are just fantastic human beings. And it's a similar situation, have kids, they're trying to do this out of their own pocket, out of England and stuff like that.
Right.
And then when I released Invincible and posted it everywhere and stuff like that, Pete Rockcliffe commented on Invincible. Now, I had heard one song from Crown Solace at that point in time and was already like, this dude is pretty sick and I want to work with him, but I need to be careful about how I just want to be like, coming out of the gate going, hey, do you, let's work on this, because he's probably got all this stuff going on.
Sure.
Right. So I was like, all right, Pete is awesome. He's commenting on how much he loves Pat Benatar. The stuff that he posts, he's done covers of things like Nightwish. Like, this dude is like my like other half in another human being.
Okay.
So I just started talking with him. And sure enough, I was right. Like, he is legit like my other half. And we just became fast friends. I absolutely adore and love this man. So when I asked him to be part of the project, he was, well, send me some demos. Let me listen to what you've got.
Okay.
And when I sent him a couple of just like the, cheapo demos, I hadn't really put a ton of work into them. He saw in them what the possibilities were.
Right.
And he was like, man, okay, so the stuff that you're doing is awesome. Let's do this. And I gave him an idea of what I wanted for The Hero Walks Alone.
Okay.
The part that I had him sing was originally for a female vocal.
Oh, okay.
Okay. But because he is a sopranist himself, and he sings operatic style like Tarja from Nightwish and from Epica and stuff like that, but he is a man.
Very cool.
I was like, how cool would this be to have him sing this part that was
Whole other texture. Absolutely.
right,
Yeah.
and shock the crap out of people when they realize that it's a guy
Yeah.
singing.
Yeah. It's funny. You got D doing the low end,
Right.
and you got Pete all the
Well,
way up high. Yeah. I love
it,
it
it
though.
it comes full circle. So he had a friend named Stephanie Keogh, who at the time was one of the singers for Nergard, and she is the YouTube jack of all trades singer. So
Okay.
she can do everything. She can growl. She can do highs, do lows. She's theatrical, does musical theater, very good with costuming and makeup. Like
Wow.
she does everything.
Okay.
So he had the idea of maybe getting her to sing something on that song to contrast, like get some kind of lows in there.
Okay.
The
Okay.
part that I have, what I think we're going to end up doing is she's going to sing the harmony to the low, because the low that I have is very bass.
Okay.
It's very low and and it is very,
Okay.
very growly. If you've ever heard of a YouTuber called Jonathan Young,
I don't
it's
think so.
that he made he's a huge YouTuber now that's with the Judge and Jury Records.
Okay.
And he started by doing Disney covers, but he's got this low bass baritone
Okay.
grit. He's also contracted by Magic the Gathering, Wizards of the Coast, and has done an entire album with
What
Matt
the fuck?
Heafy,
Okay.
with Matt Heafy of Trivium, for Magic the Gathering.
Holy
That's
shit.
that's
Okay.
how big this dude has gotten. And he sang the cover of Pokemon with the original singer of the Pokemon theme, Jason Page.
I'm having a small nerdgasm over here.
He is amazing. If you have
There's
not
just so much
heard
going
him,
on here. Yeah.
if you
Okay.
have not
Okay.
heard him, you need to check out Jonathan Young. He has become
Okay.
huge, but I've been a
Okay.
fan of his for like 8 years.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
but anyway, and he's one of the people that inspired me to get back into it because of what he was doing from his basement, basically. So yeah, but
So that was Pete. That was Stephanie.
yeah, so he contacted Stephanie for me and was like, "Hey, I'm going to be working on this project. I know you and I have always wanted to try to do something together, and we haven't yet. Do you want to maybe make this the project where we
Excellent.
actually do something together?" So she's gonna hopefully do The Hero Walks Alone, and then they're gonna sing a song, the intro track to the album. It's called Children of
Time. Yeah. Okay.
And that one is going to be sung by both of them together.
Oh, cool.
And that song features George Acker on guitars.
Okay.
That song is all George.
Okay, so no Patrick on guitar for that one.
No, Patrick's on bass for that one.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So
because he does rhythm guitar too, and lead and bass and Swiss Army knife of stringed instrument kind of. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I do pretty much all of the orchestration. He basically does the guitar and bass, and occasionally when I get stumped on a drum issue, he helps me out with the drum issue.
Right.
Sergio has also been doing a lot of the bass work on some of the more recent songs that we've been working on these last few weeks here, as well. Just because with what we're contracted to do, he said if I need bass work, he'd be happy to oblige. So I was like, sure, do it. So it's kind of just like it's a jack of all trades album. We got everything going on.
No, no, go ahead.
I was gonna say Marcos also does. It's a very subtle growl at the very end of Children of Time, but it's there. So he does that, and he'll be growling for Hero Walks Alone as well.
Oh wow. Okay. I mean, what one of the things that I'm enjoying so much about this is that you are building like a microcosm of a community, right? You've got your album is sort of an indie music community in itself, and I think that the fact that you're meeting these people, you're developing these relationships, and I get the sense from you, and have sort of gotten that very quickly since we started talking, that your standard for what you're going to put out is very specific. It's very high and it's very specific. And I understand that some people might not like that, but I think that first of all, given the way that you relate to music, right, that you have this innate knack for it and that you have this deep connection to it, it makes me think of something that Ambrose from Anger Overdose said. There's the Anger Overdose mention, but that Ambrose said in answer to one of the last couple questions, that one of the hardest things about being a musician for him is getting what's in his head out into the world and having those two things match up. And when he said that, pretty much everybody watching was like, oh my God, yes. Like that. And the thing is that I think that how willing to compromise on that one is determines how difficult that is, along with how complicated what's in someone's head is in the first place, right? So if someone's basically coming up with chopsticks, getting that to translate outside their head is not going to be all that hard. But you really are, your music is like the sonic version of the most epic, complicated, kick-ass D&D game that like anybody could ever put together, right? And it's like there are all these pieces and all these layers, and there's a delicate balance there too, because I mean, like, you will have something that's very orchestral, something that's very again, epic and kind of arena level, just cinematic vocally, and the guitars are just shredding it up, and the harmonies for the guitars and everything. And then you'll have these blast beats going underneath it, and it's like, okay, not necessarily what I would have expected, but it's exactly the way that it needed to be, right? And so there are all of these pieces. And what you've done in the way that you've structured this band so collaboratively is that you can really cherry pick exactly the right people for exactly the right song to get exactly what you want out of it. And then you're willing to hold them and yourself to that high standard, and they're willing to let you do it, that's kind of, you've got the hat trick there, right? So it's like, because people could be like, well, fuck that, this guy's an asshole, and it was good enough, and it doesn't sound like you've come across that so far.
No. Like something, I think the asshole thing is more or less, I feel more asshole-ish for having to say the things that I have to say. But the good news is that most of the people that are doing this with me are in the business. They understand industry standards. They understand and they take complete pride in what they do. It's not that they're willing to let me, say do this. Okay. They want to be a part of it. They're excited to be a part of it. Very cool. That's more that's just, again, that's the relationships.
Well, and I guess what I meant more was not like, they're willing to let you just whip them in the shape, but it's they're open enough as people and as musicians to let themselves be challenged to achieve what they can achieve. And that's not something that, I mean, hell, that's not something that I would necessarily do. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've, the guys will say, oh, we should cover this song. And I'm like, I can't do that. And they're like, yes, you can. I'm like, no, I can't pull that one off. And it'll be a fight, and it's, I'm sort of learning. There you go. It's unagi, right?
Great reference.
Thank you for getting it.
It's a mindset, though. That's the thing. Like, listen, some of the stuff that I've done on the piano, I could not do for this album. I could not do prior to doing this album.
Okay.
I pushed myself. I practiced. I worked harder for some of the arpeggios the classical arpeggios that I do. You'll see them in Children of Time. Okay. And stuff. So some of the stuff that I came up with for the piano was beyond my skill. Okay. Mm-hmm. But I worked at it. Could I play it live right this second? Probably not. I would probably have to spend even more time working on it. But in the studio setting where I could take it in pieces, I was able to still play it all. I didn't go in and I didn't just like put notes in to make it happen. I still played everything that's on the album, but I had to take myself so far outside the comfort zone in the realm of what I'm used to playing and what I'm capable of playing to make it happen, and there's a reason for all of this. Okay. When we did the original demos in 2009, there was a song. So it was our epic called Faces in the Mirror.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was originally for a rock opera I was planning. It's a vampire rock opera. Okay. Which may still come to fruition at some point in time because I still have tons of music for it. Just need to
So
make it.
this is like the real legit version of the thing from Forgetting Sarah Marshall. Have you seen that movie?
Yes. And I was writing it when that movie came out, so everybody was like, "It's Keith! It's Keith!"
Spectacular. Okay.
So,
To be fair, I actually thought that was pretty good in the movie. So
it was a cool concept, but this is
a little bit better, right?
The other reason why I started writing it was because Elton John created the musical for the vampire Lestat for Interview.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
And it was awful. The music was too campy. It was too happy. He did not capture the essence of that realm.
No, Elton never came back after The Lion King. I'm sorry. Like there was some too much sugar, saccharin, whatever got into his brain. He's still making money, but yeah, it's
there was one good song in that entire musical, and it was called "I Want More," and it was Claudia's song.
Okay.
It was the only song that was worth its salt. Everything else was crap, in my opinion. And if Elton John ever watches this, I am sorry, but man, it was not good. And I hold you to a higher standard than that myself.
There you go. Sorry, Elton.
Sorry, Elton. You're so talented. You're better.
He says it, Elton, out of love because he knows that you're even better than the Lestat musical.
Because I love your music, and you're one of the most accomplished piano players in the face of the world. So,
I love that we're talking to Elton John right now. Like, there's any chance. Actually, if anyone's going to somehow 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon his way into Elton John watching his Voxing guest, it's probably you. So I'm going to go with a non-zero chance on that. But okay, so
listen,
you're gonna make something that is.
I love him, but that musical was not good. So I started creating one that, again, the songs were a little bit more simplistic because I was younger at the time, which means that there's a lot of room for them to grow. Now that I'm older and can revisit all of this stuff. But I had pretty much the entire first act and part of the second act for the music written.
Okay. Wow.
I just need someone to help me with the storyline. Now the storyline was, picture kind of like an angel type character from Buffy.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, but in the world of the role-playing game Vampire the Masquerade.
Okay.
The World of Darkness. If you've ever played that, if you have not,
I've only read about it. I have never played it. No.
It's again, it's a really cool concept. It's like a vampire D&D essentially, but they have the world is so complete. That's the reason why I love it, is they have different clans that have different abilities. They have, their own line of royalty, their own hegemon. So
there's a whole universe,
every city has a prince. Like there's this entire, way that their entire society is.
This is the nerdiest thing ever, and I love it so much.
It got some underworld to it too, right? So you've got, but the whole idea was centered around this song that I wrote called Faces in the Mirror. And the whole premise of that song was this is the end of Act 1. Okay. The human girl, thinks that this guy that she was in love with, engaged to way back in the day, has been dead for like a decade. And she randomly runs into him by accident and throwing her entire world out of sorts, right? Okay. So she's in her apartment.
Ghosting to a whole other level, but okay.
Right, right. Well, that's what he was not allowed to have contact with her because they faked his death to turn him into a vampire.
Very literal ghosting, yeah. Okay.
Literal ghosting. So she's standing in front of this full-length mirror, yelling at the mirror all of her frustrations and anger and all of this stuff, while he's literally at the windowsill watching all of this unfold. But she doesn't know it because vampire, no reflection.
Have a reflection, right? Okay.
Right. So then halfway through the song, and this is the part that made me angry. So this song was definitely musical-esque. Halfway through the song, there was a part where they duet together.
Okay.
That part was cut from the original demo.
Why? And by whom?
By Todd.
Okay. Damn you, Todd. Todd, we like you even less than the Lestat musical for that, Todd.
I told him that, I didn't, that I could sing it, but I wasn't the right voice for it.
You knew what it was supposed to sound like.
He didn't want to bring in somebody else to just, sing that. He didn't want to take the time to find somebody. He wanted to move past. The studio was too expensive, blah, 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 blah. Okay, I get it. So we cut that. So there is a version of that song that is, you know, not mixed and stuff like that, that still has that original vocal out there. I would have to go digging for it. I don't know where it's at.
Okay.
But there's a part where they kind of sing back and forth, and then the final chorus, which they left in, is them singing the final chorus together.
Okay.
And you know, the again, it's a romantic play, so it ends with that big kiss going into act 2.
But I imagine that in a song like that, that section is probably critical to the plot development.
Yep.
And so for that to be cut, it's kind of like, you know,
it still worked for the metal song.
Sure, but not.
Worked, but
I can't imagine how much that must have galled you specifically, though, as a, and I mean this in the not negative sense of the word, as a perfectionist in terms of how you want things to say, you know, to match up to what is your, that must have driven you nuts.
That was that was the beginning of the end of Even Ethos.
Okay.
If I'm being 100% honest, that was when Todd and I started clashing a lot more.
Well, but you know what, though, when you were talking about the reasoning, and look, I understand studio time is fucking, it's like a mortgage. I get it. Like it is very expensive. But like when you were describing that discussion and the rationale for cutting it, I'm thinking this is the exact opposite of Keith's entire approach to everything. Like, I don't want to bother bringing in somebody new. I don't want to, you know, do all the work I need to do to get it to sound exactly the way I want it to sound. Like, so that can't have just developed as an issue out of whole cloth just around that song. That is a mindset and a philosophy that is baked into how you make music in the first place. So I could completely see where it's not like you guys had a tantrum over one thing. That's an almost irreconcilable set of perspectives. And when you're in a band with someone, and especially being as now, because I feel like I know you so well, but like clearly what you do, that wasn't going to work. Like there was no way that was sustainable if that was the other side of things.
We released it, but I wasn't happy about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because the song to me was not finished.
It and it's great. I mean, like it's great and it works. And it, like, you know, it's not like I'm sitting there listening going like, oh, I feel like it's missing something there. But you knew what was supposed to be and was not. And so, yeah, why would you be happy with it? Right. You know, and,
you know, with the success of everything, one of the things that I would absolutely love to do is re-record the songs that we did with Even Ethos, not just in a demo form, but like release them under Anaria the way that they were supposed to have been.
But I mean, the thing is, though, that I mean, so what I found, at least for Even Ethos, was Winter Shadow, there was Pain, there was Faces in the Mirror, Remnants of Wings, and Awaken, right? Those are the one. Okay, so those are the ones that were out there, and they don't sound like demos. Like they don't. Like when you guys hear Keith saying they're demos, right? Like, you know, demos for most people are like, okay, well, you know, you can hear your cat using the litter box in the corner, you know, like this is not demo level as far as I consider it. Like, and I knew that was the wording that you had used around this stuff, because this was back from like 09, 10, something like that, right? So I knew you were considering them demos, but I was like, what the fuck? Like what was going to get better?
This is what we were going to send to labels.
But then I heard what you do now, and I went, okay, you know, and actually even listening to Anaria, and now I have to go back and find the little Easter egg there with the, you know, the demos that I didn't realize, but it is a different level, right? But it's still so good. Like the demo stuff was still so good. But okay, so you would, and I could completely see where there are areas where you would fill out and thicken and richen the stuff that is out that is already quite good, but it's for you a demo. So I think that's a great idea. I mean, like, why wouldn't you do that at this point?
If you've listened to The Musketeer, at the very end of that song, there's a big drum, massive drum.
Yeah.
The reason why I did that in that song was because I never got to do that in Faces in the Mirror.
Okay.
There was supposed to be, but we didn't have the means to do that back then.
Okay.
right? The libraries for virtual sounds and stuff like that wasn't where it is now,
No,
or stuff like
no,
that.
no.
And we didn't have any big kettle drum that we could just, take a
Right,
sample of at that point in time.
right,
So
right.
there was a part in two, actually it happens twice in Faces in the Mirror, that because I wanted it to be like the Circle of Life Lion King drum
Yeah,
at the very end of the
like the
Circle of
wall
Life.
of drop. Yeah,
Boom.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Big boom, and we never got to put it in there. So now with all the new stuff, you'll see that happens probably a couple of times in these songs, because
Yeah,
I love that. It makes it even more epic when that happens.
absolutely.
Um, like for example, like with War Cries, I've got multiple kettle drum beats going on in there to symbolize war drums.
Okay.
So I love that type of stuff, tribal beats, all that. Like I love that type of drum work. So again, the song, that particular song, I mean, I could let the other ones stand. Those are done the way that they were supposed to be done, the way that we envisioned them back then. Could I do something with them now? Sure. But are
But you
they
don't need to in that
right?
same way.
Are they
Yeah.
finished? Yes. Is Faces in the Mirror finished? No. Would I
No.
want to do that, at least that one over
Yeah,
again? Yes.
absolutely. It's funny because when you said that about the drums, a little light bulb went off for me, which is why I was making that stupid face just a second ago. But I think one of the things that is so why your music lights me up the way that it does. Let me see if I can articulate this correctly. It is that you have such a good ear for and connection to and sense of what musically, lyrically, vocally, instrumentally, and even just the sounds that you choose, the rhythms, the tempos, all of it, what will evoke what kinds of emotions, thoughts, impressions in people. And I bear with me here because I know this is a little bit esoteric, but it's important because I don't think it's something I've ever articulated about a band before. It's like when you have a drum beat like that, when you have a sound like that, a big kettle, like, that big boom, like you said, that places the listener somewhere emotionally that's very specific, right? It does have that, call to arms, battle cry, big cinematic, epic, there's just so much baked into that. And placing that where you place it is gonna put that mood in that spot, right? Are you with me so far? And then so when you do something like, okay, so Waiting for You, I'm listening to the song and I'm going, okay, first of all, the intro to that song is so fabulously 80s hair metal. Like it is, I'm on the hood of a car crawling around in a little night. Like, I mean, like it is just so of its time, of its place. It's note for note perfection of that genre, right? So I'm already into it. Then I get this kind of foreigner, like cold as ice kind of feeling from it, which like weird maybe, but like there was something about that resonated with me. So you got your chuggy guitar, you got your squealy riffs, your solo, whatever. The vocals are huge on the song, even though it's a quieter song relative to the other ones that you do, right?
Right. And
then because Dee has this almost like if Cher sang metal, like
that's a good
let's just go, because she's got that timbre, that throaty kind of, people shit on Cher, but I always like Cher. Cher is very distinctive, and you knew it was Cher, and there's something about Cher, it doesn't sound like anybody else, right? So, right. And then I did hear Bonnie Tyler, I did hear Taylor Dane, I did hear all the Aquanet ladies of the 80s, like just, belting it out. But then I'm getting Journey, Separate Ways, and then the piano riff is so distinctive, right? And Van it's Halen. So Van Halen, like it's so arena rock, and then right where you want the big shreddy guitar solo, it's there, But the lyrics are actually saying shit, right? So it's this idea of like, I'm waiting for you to hurt me. I'm waiting for you to break my heart. I'm waiting for you to walk away. And so it's like, I put all of those things together, right? I've got my 80s hair metal. I've got my, 80s ladies. I've got, all this stuff. And it just, I can't get through a single one of your songs without feeling something. And it's the weirdest thing because it's so specific that it makes me feel like I did when I was a kid in some ways, because it taps into all of that 80s DNA, right?
Yeah.
But it makes me, it just, I can't articulate it, Keith, and I'm sorry for rambling, but like, I don't think any of that is accidental, like not a single bit of it. I think everything that you have in a song, there's not a spot in anything I heard of yours where I was like, that didn't need to be there, or okay, this is a little over the top, or oh, that's a weird whatever. Like, it was just exactly all where it needed to be. And I think that because you feel and understand music in the way that you do, it reminds me in some ways a very different kinds of thing, but in some ways to how I reacted to like Steam Slicer and what Joel did with the albums, and just that it made me feel things that I didn't expect to feel and didn't even necessarily understand. And it was similar with you, again, a different feelings, very much so, or whatever. But like, if you can't tell, I really love Knightfall, right? But like, I know I'm talking a lot, but like, so I guess I don't know, I don't even feel like I have to make a question out of that, because people are used to me having like, monologues for 40 or 45 minutes without the guest actually saying anything. But like, I get like this when I love the music so much. And I think that it's fun for me to analyze what was so visceral in my reaction. And I think that you have a very analytical element to how because you do compose, right? And a composer has to compose. That's the whole point. But you also have the emotional bit. So it doesn't sound mechanical. It doesn't sound planned or plotted or soulless or whatever. So like, I mean, does that just come from that thing where you're just woven into music, where you can sit down and pick up the piano by ear or pick up the violin or where do you think that comes from? That marriage of, the mind and the heart and all of that. And
yeah, so the music, I mean, I may not be the greatest lyricist in the world, and I do, for some of the songs I have, asked for help because I get stumped.
Sure.
But
which is good by itself, actually.
I know what the emotion is in the music.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is for me. When I create a piece of music, it is 100% emotional. It's not technical. It's 100% emotional. It is what sounds good to me, but it is what articulates the feeling that I'm having at the time of its creation.
That was a much faster way to say what I was trying to say. Thank you.
No problem.
But I get that, though. I really do. So in the songwriting process, then, walk me through that, what that's like. So do you generally start with a riff? Is it sometimes lyrics? Does it depend on the song?
It depends on the song. So like, for example, I'll tell you the story of how War Cries happened. So I was extremely angry. And I wrote a riff that I originally called Wrath the Fury God.
Okay.
And it was just a riff. There's nothing else attached to it or anything like that.
Okay.
I wrote that, and I was in a super bad place. I was mad, and this was getting my frustrations out, which is why it turned into a war song, honestly. But then probably like a month later after writing that, because I didn't know what to do with it, I went to go take a shower, and I usually...
An angry shower, yeah.
No. Just a regular
but then you
shower.
were calmed down a little bit, yeah.
I sing in the shower, I hum, sure. I come up with... I don't know why, but a lot of times when I come up with a song, it had the initial idea happens when I'm in the shower. I don't know what that is. So I just was humming things, and I was stamping my feet in the shower, doing my thing, and that's when the vocal idea for Pound Pound Hit the Ground came into fruition. So I wrote that part of it independently of Wrath the Fury God's anger part, and I got stumped on War Cries. I was like, oh man, I don't know what I should do here. Well, luck have it that Wrath was written in the same key.
Oh wow.
War Cries as what I was started to do with the Pound Pound Hit the Ground. And then when I sliced it together, I was like, wait a minute. I put that with it, and I was like, shit. this works. So it was like a puzzle, and I was putting together a puzzle. And then of course I changed the name, and War Cries became what it was, and it became this kind of Viking anthemic thing, and I added all these different sounds to layer it in to make it, big, and then made the theme of it very much Viking. Now, Stephanie, I had no idea what I was doing for the verses. None whatsoever. But she heard this song on my demo reel and was like, this is the one I want to do.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, girl, you go get it. And like a couple weeks later, she came back at me. She's like, hey, so I was playing around with it, and this just happened. And she had completed the rest of the song.
Oh, wow.
Vocally.
Wow.
Like all of my melodies were there and stuff like that, but she had come up with the words, and like it was brilliant. And
That's a good person to know.
Right. So I heard it, and I was like, okay. And I do what I do. I listen to it, and I'm like, okay, this is amazing. This is amazing. This, not so much. Let's fix it. So I edit.
Yeah.
So I sent her back an edited version of it, and I was like, hey, so this part right here got way too many lyrics. It was just too much there. So what if we condensed it to this? It still has the same impact of what you were getting at, but now
Cleaner.
it flows better.
Yeah.
So I sent her, my version of everything and what I changed, and she was like, yeah, I'm good with all of that. Like this, we've got War Cries. And I was like, heck yeah. And then, unfortunately, she hasn't been able to record it yet, just because a whole bunch of life stuff got in the way with family stuff, moving, having to gut and redo an entire house, and stuff like that by herself to save money. So she's been, and then she got sick with COVID.
Shit. Okay. Yeah. So she has a good excuse for not having had it done. So, okay.
Right.
Okay.
So we as soon as we get this one recorded, I cannot wait, because that's also the one that I did the, if you guys want to, sing the chorus with me thing. So people were able to send a version of the chorus into me. So I've got probably, I think, people that actually completed it, maybe 7 or 8 people.
Hey, that's pretty good actually for the internet.
Did it. Right. Did it. So, and then we're going to blend those voices with takes that I've done, takes that Sergio's going to do with, he's got some people that are going to help with it as well to fill it out, to make it really sound big.
Yeah.
And then all we have to do is basically get Stephanie to record her portions of it, and that song is completed, done. The mix, the instrumental mix sounds amazing. I can't wait to be able to share that with everybody. Share the song with everybody, because it's going to be awesome.
So that idea then that you always, whether it's with a riff, whether it's with a lyric, whether it's with even a concept, it's always from an emotional place that it begins. And then I guess the analytical piece of it doesn't even sound divorced from the emotional piece. It's that you have to think through and plan out and exact what you need to get that emotional piece across.
A lot of it is on the fly. So when I start doing the orchestration, I have an idea.
Okay.
But not necessarily like this is exactly what needs to go. So like, for example, with War Cries, that just kept building. Okay. The low male vocal at the very beginning, the ahs, that really set the ambient of the song.
Okay.
That just, I knew I wanted to throw a choir in there, because that's one of my signature things that I do. I'm choirs and French horns and strings, like I've realized that the two things that I always incorporate in almost every single piece of music is choir and horns, usually.
Yeah.
And strings is kind of just like, the byproduct of everything.
Right.
But I focus more on the melody with the French horn and the choir pieces more than anything else.
Right.
So, but that just kind of built. And then the idea, as I was building that, came to me, okay, well, what if we make it like these, big war drums, dunk, 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 dunk. And then I was like, well, what if we made a metal sound that sounded like a blacksmith forging a weapon? Clink, clink. So all of that stuff just starts to, blend into it. Now, for songs like Children of Time, I had a melody in mind.
Okay.
Right. And what I did is I just kept layering and different instruments that would have, either a harmony or something that was slightly different, and it just keeps building and building.
Okay.
But it's still based on the initial melody that I had.
Melody, right,
If
right.
you listen to the original demo of that song and what it became, you're going to be like, how in the hell did you
Get from there to there?
get
Yeah.
from this to
Yeah.
this?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, because it is wildly different, but the core melody
Is still there.
stays the
Okay.
same, right? So
Okay.
sometimes it is just built off of the melody and just building,
Okay.
right? Sometimes it's a lyric that just like there's no music to it. I just, you know, come up with something that I'm just like, I want to build a song around this.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and that happened with one of the songs, which I still don't have a vocalist for yet, which is Remember My Name.
Okay.
Which that was the the original idea of it was Know My Name.
Okay.
But then as I was watching for the millionth time the beautiful Ridley Scott film called Troy.
Okay.
Actually, was that Wolfgang Peterson? No, that was Wolfgang Peterson. My bad.
Okay. Is that the one with Brad
Ridley
Pitt?
Scott's Gladiator, Wolfgang Peterson's Troy.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. I mean Ridley Scott. Yeah. Okay.
Which two of them? They're both huge favorite directors of mine. I mean,
Okay.
Wolfgang did The Neverending Story in the 80s. Let's be real. He's amazing.
I mean, if that had been all he had ever done.
Yeah.
That would have been enough.
If that was everything. Same thing with Alien. If Alien was all Ridley Scott had ever done, but then he gave
And
us
I kind of wish he hadn't done much past that. Alien and Aliens I would keep. Once we get into 3 on, I'm like,
well, 4 sucked. Prometheus is amazing. I love Prometheus.
Oh, I haven't seen that one. Okay.
Prometheus is like the prequel to the Alien series.
Okay.
Okay.
But not like the shitty Star Wars prequels. It's a good prequel.
No, it's a good
Okay,
prequel.
all right.
Prometheus was absolutely fantastic. And even though a lot of people didn't like it, I actually liked Alien Covenant, which is the direct sequel to the prequel.
Okay.
So I could do without Alien 3. Well, I don't hate Alien 3. I could do without Alien Resurrection. But you want to know what's crazy? Go back and rewatch that movie. I know we're getting off on a tangent here.
Yeah,
Go back and rewatch that movie.
Kind of my thing.
3/4 of that movie was absolutely fantastic until they brought out that hybrid alien, whatever you want to call it, thing, and then the entire movie tanked from there on. Therefore,
Like the Prius alien or whatever. Yeah. Okay. All right.
But if you actually watch the initial story leading up to that,
I might be willing.
It was actually a good film.
Yeah, there are a lot of things like that where it's a great idea and then just at the end. But
They're just like they ruined it at the very, very end of it. But
thankfully,
Prometheus,
you don't do that with your music. Look how I brought it right back.
Hey, it's still early in the game. We could be having this conversation 5 years from now, going, "Hey, your last album tanked. What happened?"
That was very Alien Resurrection of you.
That was the Alien Resurrection.
But no, I mean, like
Knightfall.
I think that it's I think that it's just I don't know. I really I guess we haven't actually said this, so we probably should. Because people are going to hear you talking about Children of Time and War Cries and, Farewell and all of this and go looking for it. And they won't be able to find it yet.
Not yet.
But that's okay, guys, because first of all, you have, 4 songs at least to sink your teeth into, and then you can go finding the older stuff, the Events Ethos stuff and all of that. But you do have a new album that's coming out. And the when of that is up in the air a little bit, but I will say before we get into that, you guys can pre-order it. Okay. Yeah. It is pre-orderable and you're going to want to do that because how can you not want this album after this conversation?
Pre-order it.
Talk. Yeah, really seriously. You guys know what that's like. I mean, we got to get people to pre-order Destiny Calling, and we have to get people to pre-save Replicate by AOD. Those are like our 2 main goals for right now. We got to get everybody to you got to pre everything, guys.
Yes.
People putting stuff out, pre it. Just do it because first of all, why not? And secondly, how much it helps. So pre-order it. But in the meantime, while you're waiting, Keith will explain the timeline shifting a little bit, right, Keith? Yeah. Do we know by how much that's still very much up in the air now, right?
The original plan at the beginning of last year was to try and release the album by the end of November, but then we've had setbacks, and it happens, which is the reason why I never set a date. Okay,
smart.
So then I was thinking, end of December. I had said that it would come out at the end of 2023. That's what I was hopeful for.
Right.
Well, now I have this injury that is preventing a lot of things from happening. I still haven't 100% completed Remember My Name, and I cannot really sit in the chair that I need to sit in order to be in front of the computer for any longer than about 10 minutes before there's extreme pain in my arm and shoulder.
Yeah, guys, you need to understand that when Keith came on, he explained that he's propped up in a magical sort of way right now, with pillows and painkillers and all kinds of TENS machines and everything else, because he feels like crap, and has had a really intense couple of weeks. So the fact that you're here tonight, first of all, is I'm grateful for that, because I know you're not feeling great. And the fact that you're coherent is also pretty impressive between the pain and the remedies for it. But so this
I'm dedicated.
You are, and this is an unavoidable delay.
Yeah, this is an unavoidable. So I apologize, and I
you don't have to.
What I'm planning on doing is one of the songs is going to be ready sooner than the others.
Okay.
So Farewell is going to get released as a single. That's one of the things I wanted to announce tonight. Okay. So that's the outro track to the album.
Okay.
I hate to give away stuff, but just because we're having to delay, I wanted to give everybody another track to sink their teeth.
Yeah.
And Farewell, let's talk about that one.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if it's okay to do that, because I would definitely.
Let's talk about it. It's a very emotional song for me. This song was written about the passing of my mother. Okay. And my mother passed away of Alzheimer's in 2017.
Mm.
And my mother was a school teacher for 42 years. She was one of my best friends on this earth. She was the person who always supported me in absolutely everything that I did, even more so than my dad. My dad always had reservations about the things I wanted to do with my life. My mother, she really didn't. There was a couple of times where she did, but that's when I had the conversation where I held her hands and I looked at her straight in the eye and I said, "Mom, do you trust me?" And it's like, she was like, "Yes, I do." And I was like, "Then you don't worry about me. I'm going to be fine."
Mm-hmm.
So she always trusted that I was going to land on my feet, and she always backed up any decision that I make, even if she didn't agree with it.
Yeah, that's the way.
An amazing woman. When she passed, I'll never forget her funeral, because she was a teacher for 42 plus years, right?
So many students.
Amount of students that came to pay respects to her.
That's a testament right there.
And all of them were from different generations. Okay, you had people that were, in their 50s, almost 60s, and then there were people that were just embarking in their 20s.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They had her as a fourth grade teacher, and they all said, "Your mom was a delight. Your mom was my favorite
amazing
teacher.
Yeah.
She helped me do this. She helped me through this. Without her being there for me, I don't know where I'd be today." This is all of the stuff that I got at my mom's funeral.
Wow.
And it was one of the hardest ones because it happened quickly. She was in a car accident. She had a TIA when she was driving, and she crashed into a brick wall.
Oh, boy.
She broke her back, and she had already had an incident where she knocked her head, so she was already having short-term memory issues.
Okay.
So she seemed okay, though. That's the thing. And at the time, my family, it was too expensive to live in Massachusetts, and my wife was like, "Let's go back to Kentucky, Tennessee, where I'm from. It's so much cheaper to buy a house down there."
Yeah.
So we waited for a while till my mom recovered and was home, and she seemed like she was doing okay. There was no, any worse damage to her mind. Okay. She seemed like she was recovering. She was walking again.
Okay.
Everything was looking on the up and up.
Okay.
So this is about 6 months after her accident. We finally, it broke her heart. And I felt bad about that because, we'd only had one kid so far, and that was her only grandbaby. And he was being taken away from her, so that broke her heart. But, we said we'd come back for visits.
Right.
All that stuff. So this was, 2014 when we did this.
Okay.
So over the course of the next 2 years, because it was like August of 2014, so it was almost the end of 2014. Over the course of the next 2 years, it just started to get worse and worse. My dad was in denial about it.
Yeah.
So he was just, he was giving her like crosswords and like Mad Libs and stuff like that to do, thinking that it would just, stimulate her brain. He didn't want to admit that she had dementia. So my daughter is born in 2015. Okay, summer of 2015. So a couple of months after she's born, I go up to Massachusetts and I get my mom and I bring her, fly her down. I accompanied her the whole way. Yeah. Fly her down to my house in Gallatin, Tennessee, and we wanted her to spend a couple of weeks. And my dad thought she was depressed, and that coming out to see me for a couple of weeks would help the situation.
Okay.
But when she came out, it became apparent that she was in an advanced form of dementia. She would get angry about the smallest of like there was a light inside of a display that was on, and she couldn't figure out how to turn it off, so she was screaming at me.
Okay.
Turn it off. Like that's the type of stuff that would set her off.
Yeah.
She couldn't focus on anything. When we tried to have a conversation, she was very slow to answer. Right? So we brought her to the doctor and confirmed that she was in the early stages of Alzheimer's. So with work, I got stuck out there. When she started to get really bad, like one day she could talk to me on the phone. It would be a tough conversation. But then the very next day, she no longer knew how to work a phone. And I did not have any time that I could take for like another 60 days. Even like I tried to get an emergency time, but it just wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
So when I finally got out there, this was March of 2017, and she around Christmas time when she forgot how to use the phone. So it was a few months out. By the time I got there, there was nothing left. She was vacant. She could not respond to me. She was gone. She was already gone. And there was no, she didn't have any periods of lucidity, ever again.
Wow.
So I never got to say goodbye. That's the reason why farewell is so important to me.
Yeah.
This is my way of saying goodbye to my mom.
Wow.
So it starts off as a ballad, as it should. And I wrote a beautiful melody. I'm so proud of the melody that I've written here. And I tried very hard to write the lyrics that I wanted to write. But again, my brain doesn't always do what I want.
Right.
But thankfully, I have such a good friend and talented lyricist in Jessica. So I gave her what I had and said, "This is the parts that I don't think it's right.
Yeah,
it doesn't feel right to me. Can you try something? Figure out something."
Yeah.
And she did, and it's perfect. Perfect, absolutely perfect. She used the same concept that I had in those verses, but she changed the wording to reflect the way it should, the way it should flow properly. Okay. And then she added a part during because there's different movements in this song. Okay. There's 3 movements. Okay. The first movement is the core of the song. It's verse 1, chorus 1, verse 2, chorus 2. Okay. But then if you understand the stages of grief, you have things like denial and anger.
Bargaining and
all of that stuff. Okay. Bargaining and then acceptance. Okay. So the song flows. So the first part of the song is the melancholy. This is the grief. It's the sadness part where you're the depression. Right. So the first 3 minutes, because that's the part that you spend the most time in. Right. So the first 3 minutes of that song is basically that solace, that guilt that you feel. Because again, I felt guilty. I still feel guilty. That I was not there. I did not get to say goodbye. I did not get to tell her where she could understand me. Yeah. That I loved her and that she meant everything to me. Yeah. I didn't get to say that to her. So the first 3 minutes is that. Then it shifts to this big orchestral portion. Okay, that starts to, you can feel that there's anger, denial, that all 3 of the emotions is in this section of music. The bargaining comes towards the end when it starts to shift again. back towards the initial melody to end the song. But that first part with the horns, I made it so that it sounds like somebody is just angry at the world. And that's the emotion that I wanted there. And then the the denial part comes in, because the orchestral part shifts. There's like almost kind of like three different melodies intertwined into each other. So that first part is the anger, and then that middle part is going to be the denial aspect of it, and then where the guitar solos, that's bargaining, and then when it switches back to the final chorus, the outro of the song, which is the outro of the actual album.
Right.
Okay.
You end on acceptance. Yeah.
On acceptance.
Yeah.
I end the album on that acceptance. And then the bonus track, which is Invincible, is just, it's not part of the core album. It's just
right. A bonus.
Extra bonus. So there's technically 10 songs, and Farewell ends the album where Children of Time begins it.
Yeah.
So that's why it's called Farewell. And that's my song for my mom. That's me getting through the depression, the anger, the grief, the guilt, the denial, all of it that I have felt for years.
Yeah.
Because of not being there for her when she needed me most.
Oh, Keith. I mean, I don't fool myself that my saying anything will make a difference, but I think as a mother, what I can give you is that your relationship with your children is your whole life with your children. It's not the beginning, it's not the end, it's the whole thing. And to have a relationship like you had with your mother, where you knew that she trusted you. And that's how we learn to be trustworthy, right? When someone trusts us. We can't learn to be trustworthy if no one ever just gives us a chance and trusts us. To have that, where even in those moments where she was afraid for you, and that's when I'm betting the resistance or the reluctance or the disagreement on your plans came from, because you are afraid, you want your children to be safe and comfortable and happy and to have what they want.
Yep.
And the hardest part about being a parent is that you can't give that to them. And the most important lesson to learn as a parent is that you shouldn't, even if you can, because then you're taking that ability away from your children. You had such a good mom, because she gave you faith in yourself and confidence and self-knowledge and music and support and love. And I can tell you as a mom that there's no way she didn't know how much you loved her. There's no way that she thought you let her down. And I understand wanting to be there at the end, and I'm not going to presume to think that I know what you needed or didn't need, but it hurts my heart that you have guilt because, first of all, it wasn't your fault, you tried. And secondly, when your mom was herself, she knew exactly how much you loved her. I can feel it in everything you've said about her in this conversation. Like, and I hope this isn't presumptuous, but I just, I can't imagine that there's any doubt around that at all. So for whatever the hell that's worth, from some random chick that you just met a couple hours ago, I can tell you that I know that because you would not have had the relationship that you did with her if you two didn't feel exactly the same way about each other.
No, and deep down I do know that, but it still
hurts. Yeah.
It's why I overcompensated when my dad started to go downhill. Yeah. I moved him from Massachusetts. As soon as he started to go downhill, I moved him from Massachusetts to my home.
Oh, wow.
And even though he was unable to walk and unable to take care of himself, he was basically like another baby. Like my wife and I had to play nurse to him.
Yeah.
And I had to lift him out of a bed with
so
a fire
hard.
lift, and we had to change his diapers.
Yeah.
And stuff. Yeah. And we did that for, almost 2 years. And but we did it.
Yeah.
And with my dad, the closure was there. I don't have any regrets.
Yeah.
And that's it. And one of the reasons why I did that is because my mom made me promise when she was still alive, because she thought he was going to go first.
Mm.
You know, she thought that with his ailing, health, that he was going to go before her.
Right.
Alzheimer's was a surprise.
Right. Yeah.
So because of all of that, when probably in 2012, she and I had a conversation, and she made me promise that no matter what happens, if something does happen to her, like I thought she was crossing all of her T's and dotting all of her I's.
Right.
Maybe deep down she knew what was coming. She made me promise that I would not let him go to a nursing home.
Well, you know what though, Keith, in a way then you gave your mother that too, right? And given the connection that we talked about with you, her son and her father, and how similar, to the point where she thought you were him, right? That you if there's that level of connection that you two had, then I'm sure that however it happens, your mother knows that you kept that promise. And that's I've been through something similar with my grandma, who was one of my best friends, and it is one of the hardest things in the world to watch someone who took care of you need you to take care of them the same way. That's one of the cruel bookends of life, right? Is that we get older and we almost can go back to being babies, and then we have to hope that our children are there for us. But I'm not going to try to pretty it up. I can't, but I'm so. I mean, rather than edit myself, I was going to say is I'm just so proud of you as a son that you did all of this, and that's even the fact that your mom said that to you 5 years before she was even gone. That's a mom, right? Your mom, you try to get everything in place for your kids so that they don't have to think of, you know what I mean? Like that's just remarkable. And I cannot wait to hear this song, because I have the feeling, given what you've described, even if I didn't know what it was about, it would be epic, and I would love it. But just now knowing everything, and thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, I never take anybody's honesty or vulnerability or stories for granted ever. But that, and I love that your mom is closing out that album with you, I mean, it's so perfect to me.
Like I said, she was my everything. I miss her. If I could just have one more real conversation with her, that's what I wouldn't give for that, Yeah. And granted, I kind of know what I knew her so well that and my dad, at the same respect, I know I can kind of have those conversations.
Yeah.
Because I know how they would react to the situation. Look, the time that my mother doubted me, I gave her good reason. Okay. I quit high school.
Okay.
In my senior year.
Okay.
I told her I was done with this, mamby-pamby Catholic high school and all their bullshit.
Okay.
And I'm not going to do it anymore. These people suck. They're awful human beings. And I'm done. I was bullied very badly towards and I was over it. And my mother was like freaking out about all of this. But in my anger, I also didn't tell her that I had a plan. So she was freaking out. And I was like, Mom, I've got something in the works. I don't want to get your hopes up. I'm just going to go do it. And I just need you to trust me. And so I went, and so I left school at the very beginning of October of my senior year in 2000. It was shortly after 9/11.
Oh, okay. Wow.
I graduated in 2002. So
okay.
I want to say it was like a month after 9/11.
Okay.
And, so again, emotions were already high with everything where that stuff was concerned.
Oh, yeah.
So when I told my mom I was quitting school, like, she was like, oh. But I went, and the following month, shortly after my birthday, I took the GED test.
Okay.
So I took the GED test, and then the school that I was in was a college preparatory school. I
Okay.
scored better
You
than like
probably aced it. Yeah.
99% of the entire country
Yeah.
taking that test.
Yeah.
And I ended up putting myself. I started college a semester earlier.
Yeah. You were done. Yeah. Why not?
I was done with high school. I didn't need it anymore.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
realized that I didn't need the graduation. I didn't need to be. I just didn't need that justification.
You know what though? I love that so much because you didn't leave because you were like, school, whatever, man. Like I'm like, and fine, whatever. People do that, they do that, but you knew yourself. You knew I'm not getting a single fucking thing out of this. And not like,
Right.
oh, I don't want to do homework or I don't want to. I mean,
Well, there was that
I have
too.
a kid like, well, yeah, but like I have a kid like that. I have a kid who knows themselves. And, when they say like, this is just not serving me,
Yeah.
I believe them because
Yeah.
I know. And I think one of the things, and again, coming back to it, yeah, of course your mom freaked out because again,
That's
it's
why I hate
fear.
homework. That's
Well,
actually why I hate homework.
oh,
They make
I
it so
hate it
much a
too.
part of your grade. But the problem is that I wouldn't do the homework, but I'd ace the test because I knew the material.
Right.
I won't say it's a complete, but I had a pretty much eidetic memory.
Okay. So yeah, you really didn't. You were just
Like,
okay, I got it. Yeah.
and I still kind of to this day, the stuff that is locked away in this head, I just it drives me insane. The stuff that I know that's just useless.
No, but that again, that is fear, right? Because you think, oh well, they have to graduate high school so that they can go to college and then they could get a job and then they'll have money and they'll be okay and whatever. But like your mom still bought in with you. She did. And like that, and that to me is more important for a kid than finishing the diploma or whatever. And you still got it anyway, first of all. But like to be that age and to know yourself and what you needed and what you wouldn't tolerate anymore by 17, 18, like
Right.
That's going to serve you in life way better than staying in school for another 7 months. You know what I mean? Like that's the, and it holds because you do that now. You still do that. You're doing that with your music. You're doing it with the way that you're doing your music. And it's this, that if you can trust yourself like that, and then you have someone in your life that backs you up in that, even when they can't see what you see, that's such a gift. It's such a gift.
I have an associate's degree in musical theater. That's what I have.
That's awesome.
I went to do my bachelor's degree, but at the same time, I got to that point where I wanted to switch majors to music instead of musical theater.
Okay.
They wouldn't let me do it because I didn't have all the theory. So I quit college because of that.
You weren't going to get to do what you wanted to do. Yeah.
Right. It was at that point, again, pointless for me to complete. I mean, I still had the degree, which was enough to get me pretty much into any door that I wanted to do.
Right.
And the way that I've conducted myself, I mean, I went into the one field that I could do, which was sales. So I've been with Verizon for over 10 years. And as a sales representative, I've been, in leadership roles in stores. I do work from home, over the phone sales and stuff like that. But that's what I've done as a job. And that job has allowed me to do absolutely everything that I learned everything that I needed to on the job.
Yep. Yeah.
I've taken courses. I've learned, leadership. I've learned, what it takes to be a trainer. I mean, I've got all of these skills that I've learned just from acting,
doing it. Yeah.
and exactly. Taking the courses that they offer through the job.
Yeah.
I've thought about going back to school for, like a business degree and stuff like that. And I may still do that, but the stuff that I would like to do is I'd like to go back to school for music marketing and sound engineering.
Absolutely.
That's what I would like to do.
Absolutely.
And maybe at some point as I get a little bit older, because I'm turning 40 in about a month.
Okay. We'll buy you a cane and a pair of teeth. Don't worry, we'll send it to you. That's we all get there, right?
I feel like that's what I need right now. Good Lord.
I know, you poor thing.
I turned 40 and my body tells me I'm done for a month.
but I mean, like that's just it though. And I think it's perfect that it came about that way because you you have landed exactly where you wanted to be and where you needed to be. And that's the whole thing. And I mean, I think that it's a lot to process, but I think that your whole life in the context of the way that you make your music and vice versa, it's such a perfect fit, right? Because you may not always do things the way people want you to do them. You may not always have people see exactly what you see, but you surround yourself with people who know that they can trust you and trust themselves for what they can do with you, and you get what you're trying to get. And I think that's fucking awesome as shit, because I mean, like, that's something that it's so difficult to pull that off. It's such a rare thing to be able to say, you know what, this is what's expected of me, but this is where I know I need to be. And to just, 1,000 people are going in this direction and you go in that one. But I think, to kind of bring it back a little bit, and I don't even care about bringing it back, but in my head, the connections are happening that's why your music does what it does for me. And I'm sure for everybody else that listens, because as I said, I think earlier, there's this confidence in it, and that makes a lot more sense to me now, having heard everything that you've said, that you really, it's such a fucking, I hate when words have been ruined, but like, you really have kind of a visionary approach. It's, what you want, you hear it. And even when you can't necessarily get it, what needs to be fixed, changed, added, deleted, whatever. And then you also know who you maybe can go to get that done with you or for you or whatever. And I mean, like, that's a level of self-possession that is enviable, I think, to be able to say, I mean, first of all, I always admire anybody who has the bravery and the balls and the strength to say, I can't do this. I need help with this. Can you help me? Because so many people don't understand that like, you can't get through life well if you don't do that. You really can't.
And honestly, that stems from the experiences that I've had since my 20s. And I'll say this: when you're young, you don't think like this. You don't. You have to go through some shit in order to get I'll call it wisdom, but it's more or less the miles that you've put on yourself.
Right.
But a lot of it stems from the leadership courses that I've taken. A lot of it stems from the trial and error, like the first time I ever became a manager, the things that I did wrong.
Right.
Because I mean, I sucked as a human being in my 20s. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I was a selfish piece of shit. Okay. And I know that about myself because I wanted everything to be my way and never compromise for anybody else. Okay. And that ruined friendships, that ruined relationships, that ruined my music career, right? There was no way of explaining things or learning how to lead people in a way. It was the manager, the power trip, mindset versus I'm going to be the one leading the charge mindset. There's a difference between a leader and a manager, right?
Oh yeah. Well, the people who lead from the front versus the back, there is a big difference there. Yeah.
So when I changed that mindset to being the leader of the one that does things from the front, putting myself out there, that vulnerability, like I've shared with you today, all of that stems from all of what I've learned from working with people and the leadership courses that I've taken, having children, being in a marriage.
Oh, yeah.
I've been in a marriage for 10 years and it's not always been easy. Marriage is always work. Let's be real. Okay. And if you're not willing to put in the work, of course, it's going to end in divorce.
That's right.
Right. It's so much easier to give up when things get hard than to buckle down and get tough with it. And, that I've learned that and that humbleness from my wife and our marriage, right? We have 3 kids, different personalities. I've got one kid who's a high functioning autistic. I've got a daughter who's, 8 years old and already a diva. And then I've got my 6-year-old who just, cares about what's in front of him. He still hasn't gotten to that point where anything else matters. He gets upset if something is not his way. and he cares about what's in front of him and nothing else.
Yeah.
So 3 different personality sets that I have to change the way that I coach, because that's what I am. I'm not just a parent. I am a life coach for kids. So I have to coach them to success. And because of my job, goes hand in hand, I've learned how to do that. It comes to fruition. It's a full
Wait a
circle.
minute, the circle of life.
Exactly.
Then we come back to Elton. There we go. It's a concentric circle.
Connect everything. The 6 degrees. There we go. But that's what it's took for me to become the person that I am now. And that's why, this right here, the idea of the night is become so important. It's the reason why the name of the band has, of the project is what it is, because it's that sense of duty, it's that sense of honor, that sense of selflessness that I want to bring back to the world. Because over the last few years, I've watched this world tumble into chaos.
Oh, yeah.
And people have become mean.
Oh, yeah.
Cruel to each other.
And gleeful about it. Gleeful about it.
Happy about it.
Yeah.
Right? We used to be able to have debates on things, and it was civil. Now, if anybody has an opposing idea,
it's off with their head.
It's off with their head, and it doesn't matter what side it's on.
No, we have no middle anymore. There's no gray. Yeah,
and I'm hoping that through these mantras, through these things that I'm creating, that I can help some people deal with the adversity that they're going through. That's number one. Because, again, with my music being vastly emotional, I'm hoping people can connect to the music and maybe even save somebody with it, right? People with Farewell, I'm hoping that anybody that has ever gone through a death that I've experienced can connect with this song, feel what I feel, and find that acceptance at the very end of it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping.
Or at least just not feel alone in the first 4/5 of the song part, right? I mean, that because so many times we think what people need is for us to fix their problems. And I think almost always what we actually need is someone to sit in them with us.
Right.
That's the thing. And music, I think, more than almost anything, does that. It's why, people always will have a song that gets them through something. There's always a song that's associated with your happiest moments, with your worst moments, with the moments where you had to fight and rebuild your life back. And there's a reason for that, that there's something uniquely emotional about it. And so I have no doubt that you're going to reach and sustain and heal people with what you're doing. And I mean, and even on a less specific level, listening to your music just makes me happy. It just does. It just makes me happy. It really, and I mean, I was being silly about it in a way when I said it, but makes me want to go out and do it. But like, it's hopeful and it's joyful and it's bombastic and it's kick ass and it's interesting and it's nostalgic for those of us that, that do love the 80s and all of that. And I mean, like that's my favorite thing about music, is just that you can connect to someone you'll never ever meet on the other side of the world from you, just with music.
See, and you saying that, I've already accomplished my mission, because when I did this, that's what I wanted.
There you go.
I just needed one person. That's all I needed, was one person to connect with the music. And to, like, all the emotions that you've stated, that's what I wanted to evoke when I started writing these songs. I wanted people to feel the fire and want to go out and fight a battle. I wanted people to find that happiness. I wanted people to help heal their sadness, like all of those things, because I've gone through all of it.
Yeah.
And I've gone through even more than we have time to discuss today.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
And I mentioned this on, I mentioned things on Melanie Nix's podcast as well.
Yeah. Love Melanie Nix. Yeah.
I've got a song that is not going to be with this album, and I'm not even sure it's going to be released under Knightfall, because it's vastly different than what I do.
Okay.
But it's more like it's got a Nine Inch Nails kind of vibe to it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But it's called 2 Minutes. And that song is about my experience when I attempted to commit suicide.
Okay.
I have another one that's called Not Ready to Let You Go, which is the song that I wrote for my dad, that I played for my dad in his final days.
Wow.
that he got to listen to before he passed that I played at his funeral. I'm going to be redoing that one at some point, and releasing that one. Probably won't be on any album. It'll probably just be a straight up single.
Right.
So those two songs are stuff that's, on the back burner right now, but is going to eventually come to the forefront because again, those are healing songs that allows people to know that they're not. That takes a little bit of a different, tack from the upbeat stuff that I do. It's more angry, it's more sadness, but it's also, helping people cope with similar situations. And I want that to be something that I can help people with because I've been through it. I was technically dead for 2 minutes. Technically, they had to paddle me back. So, I mean, my mom and dad rushed me to the hospital, and they had to paddle me. So I went to Clinton Hospital. We were living in Sterling, Massachusetts at the time at our family home, and I decided to. My mother kept a very healthy pharmacy.
Okay.
In the house, and I was being bullied, extremely bullied, and it's the one mistake my mother ever made with me. And she tried the tough love moment at the wrong time. And because of what she said to me, I went upstairs and I opened every package, bottle, whatever. I took everything that was in that closet. My mother had a backup for the backup. So if it was one package of Sudafed, there was 3 packages of Sudafed. Okay. If there was one bottle of NyQuil, there was 3. If there was one bottle of Dime Tap, there was 3. If there was one package of Dime Tap, I mean, she had everything. My dad had gabapentin at the time.
Oh, shit. Okay.
So I took his pain medication.
It is astounding to me that you're talking to me right now based on what you're telling me.
Oh, I shouldn't be. It was divine intervention that I'm here at the moment. And because I went through that, I do have a unique view on many things.
Oh, yeah.
And it has affected how I handle certain situations, because I've been through that. So, and I want people to know that you can overcome. This is important, that you can find strength. I made a quote. I was helping a person at my work actually who was going through hell basically. And I just blurted it out, and I told them that true strength is not discovered until it's required. And I was like, damn, did I just create a quote, like an actual quote that I can put out into the world? And I was like, well, okay, yeah, I did. And that was even motivating to me because I'm sitting here going, I'm like, think about all the things that I've accomplished. I mean, I didn't even finish high school. Everybody told me I was going to be a failure because I didn't finish high school, right? I have a paid off house. I have been married for 10 years. I have 3 beautiful children. I'm making music. I have a steady job. What do I have?
I'm so sorry that you didn't make anything of yourself, Keith. It's really, it's very depressing to hear.
Right.
How correct all those people were. Yeah.
I haven't made any smart decisions in my life, but I was extremely bullied. And all these people were trying to tear me down. And that's why I did what I did, was because I felt like I had no more out.
Yeah.
And nobody wanted to be on my side. Nobody wanted to be on, on Team Keith. And I felt utterly alone in my grief and my anger and frustration. And that's why I did what I did, because I felt like even my parents didn't have my back.
But let me ask you this though, and this might be a fuck me kind of question. And feel free to tell me so if it is.
Yep.
You said it's the one mistake that your mom ever made with you. Do you hold that against her?
No, I forgave her a long time ago.
Okay. I want you though to think about that when you start guilting yourself about not getting to see her. Okay? Because think about that.
That's
how guilty do you think your mom felt for that? Right? Would you want her to do that? No.
We figured no, but at the same time, we figured that out a long time ago. I mean, I get where you're going with it.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a similar.
At the same time, she made sure that I was okay and got me the help that I needed, and she realized her mistake and apologized profusely for years afterwards.
Yeah.
Because when I told her I was at the point where I was ready to kill myself, she told me her exact wording was, "I didn't have the guts." You don't have the guts to do that.
Oh.
Which was the worst possible thing that you could say to somebody that was feeling that way.
Yeah.
But I also now know, because of her mistake, what mistake never to make if I ever have a child that comes to me with that. I know how to handle this.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So, and suicide is such a big problem now.
Oh my God, yeah.
people don't talk about it enough.
No, I know.
When I used to do shows as a manager and like helping, set up shows for places and stuff like that, we would do suicide awareness shows and stuff like that. If I ever am able to set up shows again in the future, I will be definitely making sure to do that.
Absolutely.
If anybody is having issues, there's places that you can go.
That's right.
You have this suicide awareness hotline. Okay, people to talk to. There's trained counselors there at any point in time. Now, don't forget, you have friends and family who care about you. Don't think that you have to walk through all of this alone. Okay,
that's right.
You don't have to. And if you ever feel like everything's closing in on you, my DM is always open.
That's right. Same here. Absolutely.
Okay? I do not want that for anybody. And trust me when I say, for someone that has tried and actually failed, I am happy that things went the way that they went.
Yep.
But I understand the feeling, and it's still a battle all the time. Even though I'm leading a good life, the depression, those moments, they still happen, and there's nothing that you can do to fix that. It's going to happen, but it's how you cope with it, what you utilize for coping mechanisms. These are all important things to help you get through those tough times when things are closing in on you and you don't feel like you have a way out.
That's exactly right.
Just remember that.
Oh, Keith, I wish I could give you a huge, mainly right-sided hug. Because I really just, I mean, if I had never spoken to you like this, I would have, adored you just for the music that you put out in the world and the way that it makes me feel. But to sit here with you in this conversation and to hear everything that we've gotten to, which is probably tip of the iceberg, because life is beautiful and awful all at once, right? And the way that that emotion is all part of what you're making in your music and what's guiding it and what's foundational to it. I don't think there's anybody out here that's not going to pre-order that fucking album at this point, guys.
Pre-order
it. Pre-order Destiny Calling. You got it now, because holy shit, don't you?
None of the money that we are making is coming to me. Okay. This is all being reinvested in the project so that we can be the highest of caliber. Because that's the thing. I've said before, I don't want to half-ass anything. So if I'm going to do a music video, it's going to be of the caliber of Starfall, which is not cheap. Okay.
Oh, I didn't think it would be.
All right. And so far, I have done all of this out of my own pocket. And I also do my best to make sure that the people that I work with are, compensated in some way if I'm able to.
Absolutely.
Right. So I don't want this to be like, a free for hire. Now, there's been a couple people that have volunteered, right? And I've offered, okay, and they have said, no, I'm doing this. We just love working with you. Like this is my favor to you because I want to be part of this. Okay, cool. But I do try to fairly compensate everybody that I work with.
Yeah.
And it is extremely important to me that I'm able to do so. But when I'm doing this all by myself, and I have 3 kids, and I have, all the other things that I have to pay in life.
Every single person watching this right now, listening to this right now, knows exactly how expensive it is to follow your passion. That's right.
Made of money. So in order to keep bringing you this high caliber
there you go.
of product, we need the sales, right? So the t-shirt sales, the CD sales, all of this is important. We do have a GoFundMe to fund the next group of music videos, which I hope we can hit our goal. All right. The goal is 20,000. All right. And I know that seems like a high goal, but I've done the pricing to get the film crew over to where we want to go to be able to film the stuff, which would be England.
It adds up so fast. Holy shit. Okay.
That's $10K just in travel costs.
Oof.
All right. Then you have film production costs. You have, you're talking your rent, not rent, but like hotel room.
Oh, forget. Stays. Yeah. Room, board, food. Yeah.
Board,
no,
it's that
yeah.
Stuff. It's still going to be more than 20,000 to get it all done. So we're just asking for that much so that we can actually put the plan into place.
So see, you pre-order this.
Yes.
And you help make more music possible, right? We all get that. And then you get a great album from it. It's not like you're even just giving money away. And then hopefully it will be not too too much longer, but you have to take care of yourself, your health. You have to make sure all your collaborators are healthy and not, in the middle of, complete renovation or whatever, so you can get things done. But before we wrap up, I just want to make sure, because we didn't get too much into it, but we alluded to it. I want you guys to go to Spotify, wherever you, whatever, go and listen. Okay. We've got Waiting for You. We talked about it already.
And follow.
And follow, right? Absolutely. And we talked about the Pat Benatar cover, Invincible. It is one of the best covers I've ever heard, honestly. And I'm a cover band girl, so I know covers. It actually, I think, at least instrumentally elevates the original.
Yep.
So
that was the goal. That is one of my favorite songs of all time.
Yeah.
And it's probably like one of my top 5 favorite songs of all time. And
it's a great fucking song. But I love that you slowed it down a little bit. You made it heavier. You added the blast beat drums. Like,
funnily enough, it's the same tempo.
Is it really?
Yes, it is.
I meant to go and double check that, and then I forgot to do that. But I think because of the
orchestration and all that makes it feel different.
It does, and it's, even if the tempo isn't slower, the feel of it is slower, and I like that because you sit in the pocket a little bit more rather than bouncing past it. So that's very cool. I like that even better, actually.
That's why the orchestration build up. That's why the added guitar riff that I put in there.
Oh yeah.
I wanted to do justice to the song, but I didn't want to make a carbon copy.
No, there was no point. Yeah, that song didn't need a carbon copy. It was good enough on its own. But yeah, no.
Well, I've heard so many versions of that song that are basically a carbon copy, and they're just boring.
Yeah.
I mean,
because especially if you're not going to have Pat Benatar,
right? Well, the people that are doing them are talented. Don't get me wrong.
Oh no, but it's
boring.
Yeah,
right. And then I've heard covers that were just poorly executed.
Oh yeah, Lord knows those are out there. So no, but you got to hear this cover. And then we've talked about the Musketeer a bit. Seriously, big 80s power ballad, metal feel, big male chorus, like buzzy guitar, like big riffs. This is like if Dio went to see the Neverending Story, and like what it is, just seriously like it. And again, as we mentioned, that line that we always stick together, we are always in forever, one for all, like the guitar and D and in tandem with each other, and Patrick's guitar, the whole fucking thing is cool. Go listen.
We will stand together. We are always in forever.
Oh, is that what it is? I'm sorry. Okay, so we gotta listen. Go listen and get the words right when you listen. But I can't remember them exactly. But I can hear the riff in my head as I'm saying it. So go listen. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, and that's where I get other inspiration from too. Is like I love Alexandre Dumas as a writer. So the Three Musketeers is one of my favorite stories. So when I came up with that riff and I came up with the All Hail, I was like, son of a, I got to do the Musketeers. This has got to be this. So I wrote all of the lyrics based off of that story, and I tried to condense it as much as possible.
No, I loved it because I'm listening and I'm like, is this really what I think? Because I thought maybe the title was going to be a metaphor or something. I was like, nope, this is really what we're talking about. I was fully here for it. But so go listen, go like, go follow, go do all the things, go pre-order the album and do all of that. But listen, Keith, you know now, you think you know. Whew, after all of this, it feels weird to shift gears like this, but that's okay. This show is fundamentally weird because I'm fundamentally weird, and so is Greg, and we're cool with that. We end every show with a little segment we like to call In the Vox Seat. So I'm going to ask you the same 5 questions I've asked everyone who's been on this show. Okay, and we will begin with an interesting one for you, which is if you had to sum up Knightfall's music in 5 words or less, what would you say?
Symphonic power metal 80s fusion.
Done. Cut, print, done. Okay, and I wouldn't change a single word. That's pretty much perfect. Okay, so your favorite thing about being a musician?
The creative process. I mean, when you get that idea in your head and you start to bring it to fruition, sometimes it's just a melody, and you want to do so much more when you come up with the basic melody. And I always start with a piano riff, basically.
You didn't tell me that.
Yeah, okay. usually because piano is my main.
Right. Yeah. Sure.
I usually come up with the idea on the piano, and then I go over to my DAW and my MIDI controller and I start plugging in other things at that point in time and putting the layers in the stuff that I hear in my head.
Mhm.
And I've gotten pretty good where I can get most of it out. The only part that I struggle with is the guitar. I can play good rhythm guitar, but so I'm not a solo guitar player, so I have to
Sure.
rely on people like Patrick and George, and
Right.
they're great because of the fact that I can literally say, "Hey, I want this riff to be la 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 la," and they're able to
That's great.
mimic that for me, and get what I've got in my head in there. Sometimes I can play the riff on the keyboard, but I love that creative process,
Mm.
the build of the song. Because I know some people spend 10 minutes on a song, some people spend an hour on a song. I probably literally spend over 50 hours on each song that I record.
Jesus. I mean, that tracks for me, but that's still astounding if you really think about that. So,
yeah. So Starfall was
okay.
closer to 80.
Okay. See, it's all part of that slacking that we knew you were going to do from when you were very young, Keith. It's just, you just, yeah. So, okay. So creative process. And I love that too, because a lot of people will say being creative, but I don't think anyone has specifically said the creative process before, and they are different things. So
Yeah.
I like that you like that journey to the end point too. So,
Right.
but then my next question is the flip side of that, which is your least favorite thing about being a musician.
Live performing.
Okay. Okay, talk to me about that a little bit. Is it a stage fright thing, or is it a?
No, I don't like to get caught up in all of that. I have in the past have had an addictive personality to things.
Okay.
So that includes, cigarettes, alcohol, all that stuff. I've quit all of those things, but I know that if I am put too far into the limelight that I could get addicted to that. And granted, doing what I do, there's always a chance of that happening,
Right.
but I would hire a hired gun to be the performer for Knightfall on tour. Honestly, I'm perfectly content being the producer, the writer, and being behind the scenes, and maybe once in a great while gracing the stage with a performance of a song and stuff like that.
Right.
But for the actual tours, I would much rather somebody else be playing the parts.
You just go see it, like get somebody with like a long wig and a goat and just, stick them out on stage and just keep them really far away. No one will even know. You could be in the back Wizard of Ozing it even if you wanted to.
Right.
But
right.
I hear you though. That's it would be actually.
That would be cool is to just kind of be in the background watching how the fans react to stuff. Like an actor going to see their own movie in disguise or something.
Exactly. Look, I get what you're saying though, because it is again, yourself. So that's, and it's good that you don't need that. So, okay. All right. So, and I'm very interested to hear what you're going to say, because even though I have a sense and we've talked about some of it, we didn't get too into influences. So if you had to pick just one album to listen to for the rest of your life.
Night Wishes Once.
Okay. Tell me why.
That's the album that changed my life.
Okay.
Literally. I had some influences prior to that. Like my first metal album was Megadeth Countdown to Extinction.
Okay.
My first metal song was Symphony of Destruction. So that started me on the path to metal.
Okay.
But then I heard Wishmaster, which is off of the 1999 album Wishmaster. Or is it 2000? It might be 2000. Anyway, I heard that song after starting to dive into Finnish music. Okay.
As we do.
I found Stratovarius, which was a Finnish power metal symphonic band, and then I found Nightwish with that song Wishmaster. But then in 2004, when they released Once, for me, that was pretty much the most perfect album I have ever heard in my entire life. Like everything about that album gelled with me.
Okay.
And that's when I knew that I wanted to create symphonic metal.
Okay. That
was the moment. And it was from start to finish. I mean, the album opens up with Dark Chest of Wonders, which is just this crazy, like insane ride of a song. And then towards the end of the album, you get this insane epic song called Ghost Love Score, which is my all-time favorite song of all time.
Okay.
Just like I could listen to that song over and over and over again. I've heard many people cover it. I've listened to pretty much every iteration of that song that has ever existed. And I love it to death, and it never gets old for me. It's a 10-minute long song.
Holy shit. Okay.
So, but it is beautifully done. Absolutely beautifully done. My AOL Instant Messenger name was one of the songs from that album. It was Planet Hell. Planet Hell.
Wow.
Wish I Had an Angel was one of the first songs that Nightwish got into a movie credit.
And that was playing on your MySpace page, I guess, right? So
Probably. More than likely. What was it? It was Alone in the Dark with Christian Slater and Tara Reid was I believe was that was the movie that song played, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I believe it won the Oscar for Best Picture that year, if I'm not mistaken.
It's a terrible movie, but Nightwish was getting recognition, and I was super happy for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then their first single off of the album, which is Nemo, which is a little bit of a slower rock song, but just equally powerful and melodic, and just one of the first songs I learned to play on guitar, honestly, was Nemo.
Okay.
And I just love everything about what Tuomas Halopainen creates. He is a visionary. Okay.
There we go.
He is my biggest idol. I have met him twice, well, 3 times.
Okay.
But
did he know about all 3 of them, or was this late at night outside his bedroom window? Okay,
No. So
okay.
During the 2004 tour, I was actually doing a show. I was doing a musical, and I could not see Nightwish when they were in Massachusetts.
Aww.
So a buddy of mine and I drove like 11 hours to Lakewood, Ohio to catch their next show.
Okay.
All right. So I drove all the way. Now, Lakewood is a small town. So in 2004, that was when Tarja was singing for them. That was like, the first real iteration of Nightwish, like the, Century Child, to once Nightwish with Marco and all that. Okay. It was absolutely fantastic because it was a smaller venue. They were not as big. Okay. And they had a band from Finland called Lullacry open for them, which nobody even remembers anymore, but they were absolutely fantastic. And I still love their music to this day. But Nightwish just blew me away. And the fact that they were willing to spend so much time, we got there really early. Their bus got stuck trying to get to the venue. So we actually helped them move the bus.
Oh, no way.
All the fans got together that were there.
That's very cool.
So they ended up spending a lot of time with us. So I got to meet Tuomas. I got to meet Marco and have like serious conversations with them.
That's amazing.
I got to meet Yuka and Empu and Tarja. And at the end, there was only one hotel, and they happened to be staying at the same hotel as us. So I got to literally sit in the hallway with Tuomas drinking wine of the hotel, asking all kinds of questions about how he got started with music.
Oh, wow.
And then in 2005, after they fired Tarja, split, I don't want to say split amicably. They really did fire her because they had 2 different visions, and I get it. But they had not yet released who the new singer was going to be and when the new album was coming out. I ran into him in New York City, Tuomas, okay, just sheer happenstance. We were both in New York City in the Virgin Megastore basement level with all the DVDs.
Okay. A huge store, and you still ran into him. Okay.
And I ran into him, and I was like, holy shit. And I asked him, I was like, hey, I don't know if you remember this, but, we hung out
in the hallway drinking wine. Yeah.
In the hallway, you were drinking wine. I had some beer, and we just, shot the shit for a while. And he told me he remembered. We talked for a good half an hour down there. He was picking up a couple of DVDs. One of the ones he had in his hand was Gladiator, actually. Because again, he's a huge fan of Hans Zimmer.
There you go.
But they were there talking with Nuclear Blast USA about the new album, and they were going to be unveiling the new singer. And I tried to get it out of him. I was like, "Come on, man, who did you get?
It's me, right? Is it me?"
He was like, "Nope." It was like, "Nice try." And I was like, "Oh, dang, I'm a huge fan." Well, I cannot wait for the new album to come out and whoever you choose. And a lot of people hated the new singer. It was different. Okay. It was completely different. She's more.
That's why people hated it.
Yeah. It was different from the operatic style, but I absolutely love the music that he created for her. And I love that iteration of Nightwish. I love every iteration of Nightwish. I'm not that Fairweather fan that just likes the one.
You definitely do not come off as Fairweather.
No,
absolutely not. Okay. So, but that particular album.
Yep.
That was the game changer.
And everything about that album was just perfect. I mean, all again, eclectic styling of songs, even though they were all symphonic metal stylings, a lot of them had different vibes. Like the Siren had that almost Middle Eastern, like Greek sound to it. You had Romanticide, which was overly heavy. That had like a killer breakdown in it. You had the Ghost Love Score, which was just beautifully composed. Everything about it was the first album they ever did with a full symphony orchestra
playing
with them. right? Which is what set them on the map to the greatness.
Well, and it makes sense too why you would like that one specifically so much. So I love that you didn't even have to. I didn't even finish the question. You were like, I have the answer. I got it. I mean, yeah, you're making me want to go listen now to everything. I don't know, but okay, all right. Listen, Keith, we've gone through your history, we've gone through family, we've gone through trauma and tragedy, we've gone through joy and visionary status and all this other stuff. And all of it's going to pale in comparison to this final question. So I've taken to now asking the guest to give me a moment to settle the crowd, okay? Because Freaky's not okay right now, and Dom is denying that he cares, and we've got a lot of clamor. So I'm going to let everybody get their shit together, and I'm going to ask you the question, the hot button issue. Here it is. Your toilet paper roll. Does the toilet paper come from over the top or under the bottom, and why? Freaky is saying, don't screw this up, Knightfall. I like you. Don't screw this up. So
just like everything in my life is a collaboration, it depends on which bathroom.
Oh, this is a new thing. Okay. So
they never built a toilet paper thing in the apartment bathroom where I had my dad, and that's the bathroom that I use the most, honestly.
Okay.
So what I did was I grabbed one of those things that like fits in the back of the toilet, and the toilet paper is technically on its side.
Okay.
Right. So it's
You're
right next
paper
to me. I
toweling
grab it.
Yep. Okay.
I do my thing. The one in the upstairs bathroom that does have the roll, that one is where my wife and my kids go to the bathroom. That one comes. It's over.
Okay.
Okay. And then because of the location of the one down here in my studio area, because of where it's located, if you have it set as over and you try to pull, it like just keeps going and doesn't stop. So you have to flip it. You have to flip it so that it's under in order for it to not roll that way.
You are polyrolius. You are the first trirolius, polyrolius person. We've had birolius people before. We have had dedicated overs mostly. We've had a couple of dedicated unders, notables, and we have Dean. But now Greg may need to add Keith, because I don't know, because this is. Now let me ask you this though, because one of them is, well, actually, one of them is an architectural choice.
Yes.
One of them is you're not really in that bathroom choice, so it's almost a location-based decision, and the other one is an engineering issue. Given your druthers, just with a big fat empty whatever to put the thing on, or a freestanding bit, would you choose a particular direction?
I feel like this is something that is like your parents, because of what they do. It's something that you just picked up. So my initial response when I go to put a roll of toilet paper is to do over.
Okay.
But that's because that's the way my parents always had it in their house.
Okay, but if you had a default, it would be over.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, I don't know.
But I've become quite accustomed to the sideways one.
You and Joel from Grimrock, I think he wants to put it on a paper towel holder. That's the thing, and just spin it out.
Basically, like what this thing is. It's an actual toilet paper dispenser, but it like when you pull off the top of the toilet, it goes on the back of the toilet, and then you put the top back on, and it's right there.
I think we're gonna have to call you an over. But you know what? I almost want to ask Greg what he thinks right now, but I don't know. I think we're going to have to call it an over. I think, because given your choice, that is what you said you would do, even though you believe you were toilet paper indoctrinated in a way. It would still be your choice. So I'm sorry, Dom. You had a glimmer of an under there. And I took it away from you, and I'm sorry. But wow, you know what? There's something so fitting about that you have taken one thing and presented it in three radically different ways that were still all somehow cohesive and
that's Knightfall.
There you go. That's it. I
Knightfall.
really am starting to cultivate this opinion that people's toilet paper orientation stance does factor into their music in some way, shape, or form, whatever it is. So I think there we go. We've tied it all back together in the weirdest fucking way possible.
It makes sense though. You know, I do all these collaborations. There's all these different layers to Knightfall. So we've got different ways of doing toilet paper. I mean, there you go.
That's it. Depending on which toilet paper holder he's collaborating with, it's going to go completely differently. But in the end, you get the result that you want. And that's just like the music. So there you go. I don't want to extend this metaphor 1 millimeter farther because it's getting into a really weird area. But Keith, this is definitely up there in one of my favorite conversations, interviews, whatever you want to call it. I really, I hope it came across how much I love Knightfall's music, your music. And I'm so happy for you that you're getting to do this and do it the way that you want to do it. And I cannot wait for Destiny Calling. Guys, really do please pre-order, okay? Because after this, how could you not want to hear this album, right?
I will leave you with a couple of tastes for the future. So
okay. All right.
So I am providing orchestration for a video game called Aspect Heroes.
Ooh.
And you may or may not recognize some of the pieces of music in this video game.
Okay.
They may be orchestral versions of songs that are on the album.
Maybe. This is a highly theoretical, conceptual conversation we're having right now. Who's to say?
Just maybe.
Okay.
And then the plan for the future, I've already technically got material for 3 follow-ups. So 1 EP.
Only 3.
Well, I've got the material for the musical, so I'm thinking about resurrecting the rock opera. So I want to do that. I do have more material for a second album. Okay, I've already got stuff that's there. And then I do have an EP that was based on the Crusades that has been sitting on the shelf for 10 plus years that needs to finally happen. It was originally some of the music I wrote when I was still in Ethos.
Okay.
That
all right.
Jessica and I had already started collaborating on way back a long time ago, and Todd and I started collaborating on way back a long time ago.
Okay. So you're locked and loaded with that too. Okay. Yeah. So look at this. We've got the video game, which may or may not have orchestral versions of things that may or may not be familiar. And we've got 2 albums. Well, we've got a rock opera, an album, and an EP. Look at you.
Yeah. So
I can't wait. I cannot wait. Keith,
and then last but not least, so the character that's on the shirt for Destiny Calling is a character by the name of Vaden Mir. Okay. Character I created when I was about 16 years old.
Oh, cool.
And he's part of a huge, I used to run this as a D&D campaign. So he's part of a huge story world that I created. So one of the things that I am planning on doing in the next few years is actually writing out this story and maybe even turning it into a game, TV show, something along those lines, and giving you all a fantasy show featuring Knightfall music.
I'm so sold. Okay. Fuck, I don't even know. I don't even know what to say to that except
so again,
please yes, do
follow, pre-order, because if you want all of these things, they all cost money.
Yeah. Or, donate lots and lots of free studio time and I don't even know what, but go pre-order. That's the easiest way to do it. Holy shit. Okay. Exciting stuff coming out. Keith, thank you for everything that you brought to this conversation. Thank you for being here and spending your evening with me.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for inviting me to take part. I enjoyed this immensely.
Yay. Okay. Guys, holy shit. That's it. Another Voxing guest in the books. We will see you next time. Bye.